smiled. "It won't be a problem if it's a little more." He looked at her again, blinked his eyes, and lowered his voice to tease. "Or, it wasn't enough yesterday, and you want me to stay with you at home?" Xia Huanhuan immediately felt like a kettle with boiling water, and she was so embarrassed that she was smoking. "Not enough. Hurry up and leave. It's annoying." Li Zhan was not in a hurry to leave. He took her hand and took off the bandage she had bandaged yesterday and checked it. The blisters caused by the burns were much better than yesterday, and they were disinfected with alcohol. Li Zhan wanted to bandage her again, but Xia Huanhuan refused. Li Zhan had to give up and said, "Then you promise not to get your hands wet, do you hear me?" Xia Huanhuan had to agree. Li Zhan then went into the mountains again. It was almost noon, and there was a commotion in the village. Secretary Zhao found a few young and strong men, and everyone went into the mountains together. The aunts and wives in the village gathered at the entrance of the village, waiting excitedly. Secretary Zhao's daughter-in-law Wu Xiaoyan, because the three little guys get along well with her brothers Chaoyang and Qiming, she also became familiar with Xia Huanhuan. Passed by the gate of the yard, saw Xia Huanhuan knitting a sweater at home, so she poked her head in and said with a smile, "Why are you still at home? Your husband Li Zhan killed a big wild boar. It is said to weigh more than 200 pounds. It's heavier than the one you caught with a trap last time." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. It has only been a few hours since Li Zhan went up the mountain, and he has already killed a wild boar? She asked sister-in-law Yin, "Are you telling the truth?" Wu Xiaoyan smiled and said, "Why not? My father-in-law has called a few strong men to carry the meat from the mountain. This winter, thanks to you and your wife, our village has eaten a lot of wild boar meat. All the young girls and wives in the village are waiting at the entrance of the village. Let's go there too." Xia Huanhuan thought for a moment, shook her head, and smiled. "I won't go. It's embarrassing." She didn't like the feeling of being surrounded by everyone and being noticed by everyone. Seeing this, Wu Xiaoyan went there by herself. Since Uncle Song Shiyue stepped down, the newly appointed village cadres have not been very concerned about the villagers going into the mountains to hunt and collect wild mushrooms and vegetables. Medium-sized prey, such as silly roe deer, are generally not required to be handed over and divided equally. But for wild boars weighing more than 200 kilograms, they are still divided according to the original rules. Every household, even the educated youth points, can get some, and the busy work lasted until the afternoon. Li Zhan came in with the 7 or 8 kilograms of meat and 4 pig's trotters that he was given. "Huanhuan, do you have soybeans at home? Let's do the pig's trotters tonight." Xia Huanhuan looked at the 4 wild boar trotters in his hand and knew that these should be the offal or pig's head. The last time she hunted a wild boar, she wanted the large intestine. Li Zhan is quite picky. "It has been a long time since I had stewed pig's trotters with soybeans. Seeing the pig's trotters, I really want to eat them." "Yes. I'll soak them first." Xia Huanhuan stood up and said, "It takes a lot of time to stew the pig's trotters until they are soft and glutinous." Li Zhan first cleaned the hair on the pig's trotters over the fire in the yard, then chopped them into pieces of moderate size, put them in a pot with cold water to boil away the blood foam and impurities, then stir-fried them with oil, onion, garlic, cinnamon and bay leaves, added water, soy sauce, etc., and simmered them slowly. In the middle, add the soaked soybeans, salt and sugar for seasoning, and stew them until they are soft and glutinous. After stewing the pig's trotters, Li Zhan said, "I'm going to town." Xia Huanhuan was still wondering, why is he either going into the mountains or going to town, and not at home all day long? In the evening, she saw Li Zhan coming back with a cart of coal briquettes, enough for her and the 3 kids to burn until the spring when it's not too cold. Xia Huanhuan realized belatedly that Li Zhan should be preparing for his return to the team after his vacation. "When are you going to return to the team?" Xia Huanhuan asked, a little depressed. Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, looked up at Xia Huanhuan, then looked away and replied, "I'll leave early the day after tomorrow." Early the day after tomorrow, which means there is only 1 day left. Although she knew that he would definitely leave, she felt a little uncomfortable when she really knew the exact deadline. After unloading the coal briquettes, it was almost dark, and Li Zhan smiled and said, I'm going out for a while. Xia Huan. There was only 1 day left for us to spend time together. And you're still running out. However, she was too embarrassed to say what she was thinking. Fortunately, Li Jian came back very quickly this time, and when he came back, he was carrying something black on his back. When he entered the house, Xia Huan saw clearly that what he was carrying was actually a smaller wild boar, which looked to be about 100 pounds. Li Jian grinned and said, "We killed 2 wild boars in the mountains during the day. The bigger one was divided equally among the villagers to avoid jealousy. The smaller one was kept for us to eat." Xia Huan was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help laughing. If you only killed 1 wild boar, would you hand it over to the village to share equally? Or would you give it to your family and leave it for me and the kids to eat? Xia Huan asked, deliberately making things difficult. Li Jian glanced at her and said without hesitation, "It's not like the villagers will starve to death without this wild boar. If there is only one, of course you and the kids will have to eat it. Is there any need to ask such an obvious question?" If it wasn't for feeding his wife and kids, he would have gone crazy instead of staying at home with his wife and running to the mountains to suffer the cold. Xia Huan could give full marks to this answer. When she heard during the day that Li Jian had killed a wild boar and was going to share it equally with the villagers, she was still muttering in her heart that this man was a little, well, too selfless. Selflessness is a very noble character. She admires people with such noble character, but she doesn't quite agree with it in her heart. To ask a person to be selfless is actually asking him to sacrifice himself, or even sacrifice his close family members, to fulfill the overall situation and others. This is inherently anti-human and unfair, commonly known as bullying good people. Li Jian's status is there, and he who wears the crown must bear its weight. This is understandable, but she is actually not without worries. However, it seems that Li Jian still has his own sense of measure and decision-making in his heart, and is not unrestrainedly selfless. Xia Huan was quite pleasantly surprised. She suddenly stood on tiptoe and kissed Li Jian on the face. Li Jian was stunned. "Wife," Li Jian called softly. No one knew where the 3 little brats were going today. They haven't come back yet, so late. While they were away, his wife flirted with them and planned to run away. "The soybean-stewed pig's trotters are ready. Wash your hands and have dinner." Why did the 3 little brats come back so late today? Aren't you hungry? As soon as the voice fell, Xiaowen, Xiaowu and Bebe pushed open the door and ran in. "Mom, 4th uncle, we are back." Xia Huan smiled and said, "You're back just in time. Wash your hands and have dinner." At this moment, Li Jian's wish was completely dashed. He sighed sadly. Dinner was white steamed buns with pig's trotters, stir-fried spicy cabbage, and a pot of rice porridge. The pig's trotters and soybeans were already stewed until soft and tasty. Just tear them apart with your mouth, and the meat and bones were separated. It was so delicious to eat with the steamed buns and rice porridge. After dinner, Li Jian took advantage of the night when no one was around to prepare the wild boar meat. The front and back legs, tenderloin, pork belly, lean meat, ribs, spare ribs, shanks, pig heads, pig's trotters, pig offal. They were neatly cut and hung on the tree outside, stored in the yard, and processed it the next day. In winter, the temperature outside is low, and fresh wild boar meat can be hung in the yard and preserved for a few days. Fresh tenderloin, pork belly, ribs, and the like can be eaten in these few days. As for large pieces of meat such as pork legs, they need to be salted, smoked, and roasted into bacon, or dried and made into jerky for preservation. Fortunately, the fence wall was built, so there was no need to worry about being seen by others when hanging it in the yard. Otherwise, his family would have so much pork at once, and even if others got the meat of that big wild boar, they would probably be jealous. Li Jian instructed, "I'll get up early tomorrow to pickle it. When you wait for the meat to dry these days, remember to lock the yard door from the inside so that no one can rush in and see it." Xia Huan rolled her eyes at him and said with a smile, "I'm not a 3-year-old child. Don't I know to avoid people? Do you need me to tell you?" Li Jian smiled and said, "But don't always eat bacon and pickled meat, cut more fresh ones to eat. If the money is not enough, Just send me a telegram or write me a letter, and I will send it back to you. Xia Huanhuan listened to his instructions and felt depressed when she thought that he was leaving soon. She had already washed and was about to go to bed, but suddenly remembered something and ran to the kitchen again. Li Zhan wondered, "What's the matter?" Xia Huanhuan went to the yard, took a large piece of lean meat and the tenderloin to the kitchen, handed the knife to Li Zhan and said, "Chop the meat into mincemeat." Li Zhan was even more puzzled. "Are you going to make dumplings? Or buns? The New Year has just passed, and dumplings are not rare. Just put them in the stir-fry." Xia Huanhuan said, "Chop it if I tell you to. You will know what to do in a while." After saying that, she went back into the house, and while no one was around, she took out some dried tangerine peel and honey, as well as white sesame seeds, etc., that were already prepared at home, and went back to the kitchen. As for the honey, she lied that it was wild honey that she had collected when she went into the mountains before. Dried tangerine peel is just dried orange peel, which is not a rare thing and does not need any additional explanation. It was chopped and mixed into the minced meat, and the dried tangerine peel was ground into powder and mixed in. A little salt was added for seasoning, and a little flour was added to increase the stickiness. Then the minced meat was beaten for a while, rolled into thin slices with a rolling pin, brushed with honey on the surface, sprinkled with white sesame seeds, cut into small pieces, and hung above the stove with wire mesh to bake slowly. Li Zhan understood and said with a smile, "If you want to make meat jerky, there is no need to rush now. Make it tonight. You'll have to watch the fire all night." Xia Huanhuan glanced at him without explaining that she was afraid she would not be able to make it in time tomorrow. The 3 kids were so tired that they fell asleep. The 2 of them worked until midnight before they went to bed. They didn't dare to fall asleep soundly because they had to get up every once in a while to check the fire, apply a layer of honey, and deal with the grease and other things from baking to prevent it from being burnt. Anyway, they couldn't sleep well, so Li Zhan pestered Xia Huanhuan and did it again. Xia Huanhuan was so scared that she kept covering her mouth tightly, fearing that the noise would be too loud and wake up the kids, which would be embarrassing. Early the next morning, the 2 marinated the wild boar meat, stuffed it into some sausages, and stuffed the pig blood into blood sausage, which was boiled in water and hung up. Xia Huanhuan also steamed some big meat buns and fried some peanuts. They were almost done. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, and others pestered Li Zhan to take them to the river to catch fish. Li Zhan was a little reluctant to go. After all, he only had less than a day left to spend time with his wife. But Xia Huanhuan poked his head out and said with a smile, "You go catch them. Don't catch too big this time, catch more small fish and shrimps and so on." Li Zhan had no choice but to take the 3 kids to fish, and indeed they caught a lot of small fish and shrimps at noon. During lunch, Li Zhan learned his lesson and secretly told the 3 kids to go out and play after lunch and come back later. As soon as the kids left, he secretly locked the door from the inside. Xia Huanhuan didn't know either. She originally wanted to call Xiaowen to light the fire, but she didn't call anyone. She was puzzled. Where did this kid go with his brothers and sisters? Why haven't they been home these days? Li Zhan felt guilty and quickly smiled. "Why call them? I'll light the fire for you." Xia Huanhuan didn't think much about it, so she cleaned the small fish and shrimps, then coated them with batter and fried them until golden and crispy. After frying the fish, she washed her hands and wanted to knead the dough to make meat-filled pies, but was stopped by Li Zhan, who could no longer bear it. Li Zhan directly carried her on his shoulders and carried her into the house. While stripping her clothes, he said dissatisfiedly, "I'm leaving soon, and you still have the time to make food." Xia Huanhuan blushed and pushed him away shyly and angrily. "I just wanted to prepare more for you, so that you can take it on the road." Li Zhan guessed it from the fact that she had been making meat jerky all night last night. He leaned over and bit her lip and smiled. "If you are really afraid that I will be hungry, just feed me well this afternoon." When dusk fell, Xia Huanhuan finally held her waist and struggled to get up. She took a few large meat buns that had been steamed in the morning and went to Zhou Qiuhua to chat for a while. Then she blushed and asked with shame, "Third sister-in-law, I want to ask you something." Seeing her like that, Zhou Qiuhua smiled and said, "Just ask whatever you want. Why are you so shy? Xia Huanhuan bit her lip, took a deep breath, and then asked as if she had let it go. Third sister-in-law, you. Do you know how the rumor in the village that Li Zhan is injured? Can't do that. Spread? There were almost no contraceptive measures in this era. Who among those born in the 1960s and 1970s didn't have many brothers and sisters? It was better in the city, maybe 3 or 4 in each family, and 4 or 5 was considered the most. In the countryside, it was much more exaggerated. Even if we didn't count the ones who couldn't be raised due to poor sanitary conditions, the rate was almost 1 child per year. Some had 7 or 8 brothers and sisters, or even more than 10. Many of the eldest were getting married in their teens or 20s, and they still had younger brothers and sisters who were 5 or 6 years old. Naturally, she and Li Zhan didn't take any precautions during these few times. It would have been fine if she didn't get pregnant later, but if she did, she wouldn't know until 2 or 3 months later. At that time, Li Zhan was in the army, and the rumors about Li Zhan were known to everyone in the village. Even if she said she was pregnant with Li Zhan's child, no one would believe it. Therefore, she could only take advantage of the fact that Li Zhan was at home, and the timing was right to reveal the matter first. Zhou Qiuhe was stunned and looked at Xia Huanhuan hesitantly. Huanhuan, why are you asking about this suddenly? Xia Huanhuan's face turned even redder, and she whispered, I suddenly remembered it, so I just asked casually. Zhou Qiuhe also blushed with embarrassment, coughed twice, and said, actually, it was probably in the beginning of last spring, when my mother-in-law said that Li Zhan was old enough, so she wanted to find him a marriage. For this, she wrote a letter and asked my 4th brother to send back an extra 20 yuan, saying that it was for the bride price. However, it seemed that it was not my 4th brother who replied, but his comrade in arms. He is still in bed recuperating. He also asked the family not to arrange for him to get married in the future, otherwise it would be harming the girl or something. Of course, no additional bride price was sent back. However, I remember that only our family knew about this letter at the time. Oh, and Secretary Zhao, who helped read the letter, also knew about it. But not long after, somehow it became known to everyone. Xia Huanhuan seemed to be thinking about what she said and did not answer for a while. Zhou Qiuhe looked at her and couldn't help but ask softly, Huanhuan, do you dislike your 4th brother's incompetence and want to divorce him? Didn't the 3rd sister-in-law speak for her brother-in-law? What can we women want? Isn't it just to marry a man and have food and clothing? Apart from Li Zhan's incompetence in that aspect, which man in the surrounding villages can compare with his character and appearance? What's more commendable is that he really loves his wife. Most of the allowances are given to you. This alone makes you far better than other men. You must think it through, and don't be impulsive. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment before she said with a smile, 3rd sister-in-law, you've got it wrong. I'm asking you this, not because I want to divorce him. Zhou Qiuhe was stunned. Then why did you suddenly? Xia Huanhuan smiled shyly, then lowered her voice and told her what happened in the past 2 days. Zhou Qiuhe widened her eyes and looked at her in disbelief. Really? Really? 4th brother, really? Xia Huanhuan glanced at her and nodded embarrassedly. Zhou Qiuhe asked belatedly, then, that day the 3 little guys said that you were sleeping in a room with the door closed, and I said that I heard something wrong in the room. In fact, you and 4th brother. Xia Huanhuan's face turned red all the way to the back of her ears. Oh, 3rd sister-in-law, you still say? Zhou Qiuhe couldn't help but smile with joy. Oh, can I stop talking? Alas, God has opened his eyes. You and 4th brother are such good people. How can you be childless? This is great. After a few months, you might be able to give the 3 little guys a brother or a sister. Xia Huanhuan was helpless. Didn't Zhou Qiuhe say she wouldn't talk anymore? 3rd sister-in-law, if you keep talking, I'm leaving. Zhou Qiuhe pulled her and said with a smile, don't go. I really won't talk anymore. Xia Huanhuan blushed, thought for a while, and asked, 3rd sister-in-law, who was present at home when Secretary Zhao read the letter you just mentioned. Zhou Qiuhe thought for a while and said, well, when Secretary Zhao read the letter, it should be only mother-in-law who was there. Doesn't fourth brother always send back the remittance slip of the allowance with the letter? Mother-in-law usually reads the letter herself before letting the family see it. We know about this because mother-in-law told her about it later at home. I heard that mother-in-law, eldest brother, second brother, and your third brother, Xiao Xiao, were present. The wives were not there, and I heard it from your third brother when he came back. Xia Huanhuan nodded. This is very much like Lulan style. However, Lulan wanted to find a country wife for Li Zhan who was easy to control and wanted a lot of allowances, so it should be impossible for her to let this matter leak out. Zhou Qiuhe glanced at Xia Huanhuan and asked, "Do you suspect that someone leaked it deliberately? I thought about this with your third brother later, who in the whole commune is dissatisfied with Secretary Zhao's character. It certainly couldn't be him. But how could such a thing be spread by the family? Wouldn't it be a disgrace to the Li family if it were spread out? Your third brother guessed that maybe when it was said, some kid in the family ran in and heard it and didn't know better, so he went out and spread it." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Well, I just asked casually. Anyway, Li Zhan is fine, so it doesn't matter who spread it." Of course it's not that it doesn't matter. Li Zhan has been in the army for 9 years, and his allowance is sent back to his family every month. His family still spreads rumors about him. What a shame. Xia Huanhuan could guess that Lulan had no motive and men were unlikely to go out and talk about such things. So it was either Wang Guixiang or Li Qiao, but she didn't know which one it was. After chatting for a while, Xia Huanhuan came back. That night, Zhou Qiuhe told Li Jie about it. Li Jie was silent, but it could be seen that he was still very happy for his brother. Xia Huanhuan returned home, made dinner, and after eating, she took the 3 children to the hospital. After putting the kid to bed and sleeping, she prepared a big pot of marinade and threw the pig's head for pig's trotters and several large pieces of pork into the pot. Then, she started to pack Li Zhan's luggage. By packing, she meant to bring him some food. She wrapped the meat jerky she made last night in a paper bag, and also wrapped a bag of fried peanuts with skin today, and another bag of fried golden small fish and shrimp. There were also freshly steamed big meat buns. Xia Huanhuan remembered that Li Zhan said that the crab roe buns were delicious last time, so she took out 2 or 3 from the space and mixed them in for him. Anyway, when he was puzzled after eating, he was not at home and could not ask her. If you really have to ask, just say that it was steamed before. In addition, she put some pickled vegetables mixed with dried radish in a canning bottle, and a bottle of rice sauce mixed with beef cubes and fermented black beans. Li Zhan looked at her packing 1 bag and 1 bottle into his bag, and felt helpless. "Look at you, I will report to Jing City first when I return to the team this time, and then I will know where to go for the next mission. It's not far, only 5 or 6 hours by train. How can you finish all the food you brought on the way?" Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes at him and said, "If you can't finish it, share it with your comrades. Last time, Bai Zihan took good care of you when you were injured. Do you have the nerve to go back empty-handed when you come back to visit your family?" Li Zhan heard Xia Huanhuan talking about Bai Zihan with a sour tone. "Bai Zihan? You have only met him once, right? How come you remember his name so clearly? My wife made the food for me. Why should I share it with others?" Xia Huanhuan heard the jealousy, turned around and looked at him and smiled. "Don't I just remember his name? Are you jealous? Have you forgotten that he is your savior? If he hadn't arrived in time on Tianyan Mountain last time, would you still be standing here?" Li Zhan couldn't help but be stunned after hearing what Xia Huanhuan said. He always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong for a while. Xia Huanhuan suddenly remembered something and said, "By the way, take off your cotton jacket and show it to me." Li Zhan was interrupted by her and didn't think about it anymore. He smiled and said, "Why are you so proactive all of a sudden? Didn't you refuse to let me do it in the afternoon? Now, you think about it again?" Xia Huanhuan was embarrassed and angry and hit him. "You can't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. Who has that thing in his mind like you? I told you to take it off quickly." Li Zhan grabbed her wrist to stop his wife's violence and smiled. Okay. Can I take it off?" Li Zhan has been exercising all year round, so he has a pretty good body shape, without any extra fat, bulging biceps, broad chest muscles, and 6-pack abs. He is the typical type who looks thin when dressed and has muscular body when undressed. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help blushing again when she saw this. Although she had seen it more thoroughly in the past few days, she was being manipulated back then, so how could she have the mind to appreciate this? She actually wanted to see if Li Zhan's injury had healed. Actually, I touched it these days and felt a small groove, which should be a scar. I just took a rough look, and it was indeed healed. However, in addition to the wound there, Li Zhan also had many other scars on his body, and there was one near his chest, which looked like a gunshot wound. Just looking at these scars that had healed, Xia Huanhuan felt frightened. She actually felt vaguely that unlike other troops with fixed bases, Li Zhan's unit was obviously more confidential, and the missions they carried out were more dangerous. Most people followed the missions and did not even have a fixed base. So in the future, Li Zhan might still get as badly injured as he did last time on Tianyan Mountain. There was a coal stove burning in the room, so it was not too cold, but it was still a bit cold with bare arms. Li Zhan couldn't help but remind her. "Wife, tell me when you're done. It's really cold." Xia Huanhuan came back to her senses and coughed twice in shame, still saying stubbornly, Who wants to see you?" Xia Huanhuan turned around, pulled out a sweater from the box, and said, "Try it on." That was the sweater she knitted for Li Zhan before the new year. The yarn she used was the finest wool yarn she took out from the space, so although it was hand-knitted, it felt soft and light. Li Zhan's dark eyes were clear, and he asked gently, "You knitted it for me? Why didn't you give it to me earlier?" If you had given it to him earlier, he would have put it on a long time ago. Xia Huanhuan said vaguely, "I was too busy during the new year and forgot." In fact, she was too embarrassed to take it out. I had thought of secretly putting it in his luggage, and he would know it when he returned to the team. Now that I have said those tough words just now, I have to find an excuse to make him take off his clothes. Li Zhan tried it on, and it fit him well. The sweater knitted by my wife is still warmer than a cotton padded jacket.
Li Zhan grinat.
Xia Huanhuan rolled his eyes at him. What a character. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but said, "When you are on a mission in the future, be careful and don't get hurt often." Fortunately, he somehow broke into her space last time, and she could still help. If he suffered a life-threatening injury again, and he didn't know if his space would happen to have problems, wouldn't he be anxious? Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, and guessed that she must have seen the scars on his body, and even his eyes became gentle. He pulled Xia Huanhuan to sit down on the Kong, and whispered, "Don't worry. For the three little guys, I will be careful, and try not to get more scars on my body." As he said, he pursed his lips and smiled, teasing. Of course, if someone always bites people like a little wild cat and leaves scars, it's none of my business. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then she realized that Li Zhan was teasing her for biting him. She couldn't help but hit him in shame and anger. I bit you because you forced me to do that? You deserve it." After thinking about it, she felt a little guilty. The last time Li Zhan helped her warm up her body. That night, when he bit her body, it seemed that she mistakenly thought that Li Zhan was a bad guy and bit him so hard that she bled. She didn't know if it would really leave a scar. The two of them didn't get enough sleep until the second half of the night. She got up early again in the morning. Xia Huanhuan took out the pig's head that had been braised all night, cut the pig's ears and pig's face into thin slices, added soy sauce, sesame oil, vinegar, salt, sugar, and chili to make a cold dish, and put them all in cans. The braised meat was also cut into large pieces, but the pig's trotters were not cut into whole pieces. They were all wrapped up and put in his luggage. Li Zhan was out of temper, and he couldn't argue with Xia Huanhuan, so he could only let her arrange it. Xia Huanhuan wanted to wake up the three kids, but was stopped by Li Zhan. "Let them sleep. It's not like they won't come back." However, the three brats woke up on their own, without being called. Xiaowen rubbed his eyes and sat up with his eyes still closed, and asked vaguely, "Mom, where is my cotton padded jacket? I have to get up and send fourth uncle off." After that, he sat there hysterically for a while and lay down again. Xia Huanhuan.
Li Zhan.
This heartless boy. Xia Huanhuan was about to scold when Xiaowen sat up again abruptly. He turned his head to see that there was no seat next to the Kong, and quickly woke up Xiaowu and Beibei. Xiaowu, Beibei, wake up. Fourth uncle is gone. Xiaowu and Beibei were both woken up, and they sat up in a daze without opening their eyes. Upon hearing Xiaowen's words, Xiaowu woke up first. Well, fourth uncle is gone? What should I do? I still have to ask fourth uncle to pick up the shells for me. Beibei said vaguely. Beibei also wants the shell. Xiaowen pulled the clothes on the quilt and put them on and said anxiously, hurry up and put on your clothes. Let's go to the village head to chase him. Maybe we can catch up. Xiaowu also hurriedly put on his cotton jacket for the shell and even buttoned the wrong buttons. Li Zhan was trying to hold back his laughter and got internal injuries. Xia Huanhuan coughed twice with both anger and amusement. The three little guys looked back at the same time and were all stunned. Xiaowu looked at Xiaowen unhappily. Brother, where is fourth uncle? I was almost anxious to death. Xiaowen made a big mistake and looked so cute with a flushed face. Beibei hadn't woken up completely yet and suddenly twisted her little head, squinted her eyes, and asked blankly. Huh? Go to the village head to chase him. Xia Huanhuan covered her face. These three little heartless people. Li Zhan coughed twice and laughed. Don't get up, it's very cold. Uncle Donxia has made a note of it, and will bring it to you next time he comes back. There are also small wooden guns, which I will make for you next time. After telling them to be obedient, do some housework to help Mom and protect Mom, he picked up his bags and set off. Li Zhan didn't let Xia Huanhuan see him off, but Xia Huanhuan didn't listen and followed him out anyway. When it was time to say goodbye, both of them were silent. When they arrived at the village entrance, they saw from a distance a thin figure wearing a patched cotton-padded jacket and with gray hair, carrying 2 buckets of water on a shoulder pole, staggering from the river to the cattle-raising side of the village. After walking a few steps, her feet went soft, and she fell to the ground. The 2 buckets of water she was carrying were also overturned, and the water with ice cubes floating on it flowed all over the ground, soaking her clothes. Li Zhan saw it, and without saying a word, he handed the luggage bag to Xia Huanhuan, walked over quickly, and helped her up. Annie, are you okay? Did you fall anywhere? Xia Huanhuan also hurried over and recognized that the person who fell was Shen Wanxue, who had just transferred to Qingshui village recently. The name sounded poetic, so she remembered it. Later, she saw her from a distance. She looked weak, but not timid, neither humble nor arrogant, and she was also good-looking. When she was young, she must have been a great beauty who charmed everyone. And she was very elegant, and at first glance she was a lady from a big family. But now she looks so haggard that people can't help but feel distressed. However, Xia Huanhuan only paid a little attention to it. Whether it was the educated youth point or the other side, she basically didn't get involved. If it weren't for Fu Qingye, she wouldn't even have gone to the educated youth point last time. Shen Wanxue raised her head, looked at Li Zhan with a dazed look in her eyes, then smiled apologetically. I'm sorry, comrade. I'm clumsy and delayed your business. I'm fine, I didn't fall. Li Zhan smiled and said, I'm glad you're okay. Shen Wanxue bent down to pick up the carrying pole, hung up the 2 buckets, and turned back to the river to fetch water again. However, she said that she did not fall, but her right foot was obviously twisted, and she walked limping with the buckets. Li Zhan walked up without thinking, snatched the carrying pole, and said, Auntie, please rest here for a while. I will fetch you water. Then he strode towards the river. Shen Wanxue quickly chased after Li Zhan a few steps, and said anxiously, Comrade, don't. I'll carry it myself. You guys hurry up and go. It would be bad if the villagers saw you talking to me. Xia Huanhuan came forward, took Shen Wanxue, checked her ankle, and found it was swollen. She took her to sit behind a bush that was a little more hidden, and said, Auntie, don't stop him. He is just like that, let him go. Shen Wanxue turned around, looked at Xia Huanhuan with a look that seemed to be out of focus, and said anxiously, But this is the job assigned to me by the village. If people know about it, what will happen if you are implicated? Xia Huanhuan raised her hand and waved it in front of her casually, and found that Shen Wanxue's eyes did not react much. She frowned slightly, then smiled and said, "Don't worry. Isn't it just helping to carry buckets of water for the cows in the village? Even if someone really sees it and complains, we are not afraid." After a while, Li Zhan came over with water. Xia Huanhuan asked him to deliver the water first, and then helped Shen Wanxue walk over there. Shen Wanxue was afraid of getting them into trouble, so she kept apologizing along the way, which made Xia Huanhuan feel embarrassed. This little episode passed quickly, and Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan left without saying anything and continued to walk out of the village. When they arrived at the village head, Li Zhan turned around and urged Xia Huanhuan to go back, but Xia Huanhuan said, "Don't worry about me. I'll take you to the town. I just happened to go to the town supply and marketing cooperative to buy some things." Li Zhan knew that she was reluctant to leave him, so in order to stay with him for a while longer, he didn't say anything. They arrived in the town soon and took a bullock cart to the county. Xia Huanhuan looked at him sitting on the bullock cart, getting smaller and smaller, and her nose couldn't help but feel sour, and tears fell down. After sniffing, Xia Huanhuan cursed herself for being hypocritical in a low voice, but she still waited until the bullock cart was out of sight before she was willing to go back. When passing by the supply and marketing cooperative, Director Zheng saw her and called her.
Huan,
"I haven't seen you for a long time. Happy New Year," Director Zheng said enthusiastically. Xia Huanhuan didn't have anything to buy, but when she heard Director Zheng calling her, she went in anyway and said with a smile, "Happy New Year, Sister Zheng." Ever since Zhou Qiuhua was recommended to be a salesperson, she started calling Director Zheng Sister Zheng. Director Zheng looked at her and smiled. "Teasing what? I heard from Qiuhua that your man left early this morning. What's the matter? Are you still reluctant to let him go? Are you crying?" Xia Huanhuan blushed and said embarrassedly, "I'm not crying. Who is reluctant to let him go?" Zhou Qiuhua came out from the back after sorting the goods, saw Xia Huanhuan and smiled. "You said you didn't cry. Even your eyes are red." Xia Huanhuan glanced at her and said angrily, "Oh, if you say it again, I'll leave." Director Zheng hurriedly grabbed her and said with a smile, "Look at you. I was just joking, but you took it seriously? I asked you to have business." Xia Huanhuan was stunned and asked, "Business? What business?" Director Zheng smiled. "Didn't you ask if there was a bicycle before the new year? I got you one, a Shanghai Forever brand, 120 yuan, and you need a bicycle ticket. Do you want it?" Xia Huanhuan heard it and said quickly, "Of course I want it. But I didn't bring that much money and bicycle tickets today. I'll go back and get them." Director Zheng held her back and took the opportunity to tease her. "Look how anxious you are. What's the matter? When you heard that you had a bicycle, you weren't even sad about your husband leaving." Without waiting for Xia Huanhuan to speak, Director Zheng stopped and continued, "You can ride the bicycle back first. How can I not trust you? You can wait until tomorrow and ask Xiao He to bring the money and bicycle tickets to me. You don't have to make a separate trip for this." Xia Huanhuan heard this and thought that she would have to walk back and get the money and tickets and walk back, which would take another hour, so she smiled and said, "That's fine. Thank you, Sister Zheng. What are you thanking me for?" Qiu He pushed the bicycle out. The brand new Forever brand 28-bar bicycle has a horizontal bar between the seat and the handlebars and a seat at the back. This design can carry as many people or goods as possible. Xia Huanhuan had seen this kind of bicycle in TV dramas before. A child could sit on the front horizontal bar, another person could sit on the back seat, and another person could be held in the arms. A family of 4 could ride on it. But it is much harder to ride than the current women's bicycles. Fortunately, Xia Huanhuan had practiced in the space for a while and succeeded in one go. When she rode the bike back to the village, the 3 kids were so happy that they surrounded the bike and insisted that Xia Huanhuan carry them to sit on it. Xia Huanhuan put Xiaowen and Xiaowu on the back seat first, and then put Beibei on the front beam. She didn't dare to ride with others, so she pushed the 3 kids around the yard for a few laps. Even this made the 3 kids so happy that they didn't go out for the whole morning and just played with the bike. Xia Huanhuan's novelty for the bike wore off. Looking at the empty house and the sudden disappearance of a living person, she couldn't help but feel empty and uncomfortable in her heart. She didn't let herself think too much and got up to clean the wild boar's heart and lungs, cut them into slices, made half into heart and lung soup, and stir-fried the other half with radish, dried chili peppers, and had the white steamed buns for lunch. Bebe asked innocently, "Mom, fourth uncle said he will be back soon, so will fourth uncle come back for dinner?" Before Xia Huanhuan could speak, Xiaowu had already refuted her, saying, "Stupid. Fourth uncle is going to a very far place. How can he come back in the morning?" Xiaowen glanced at Xia Huanhuan, glared at them, and said, "You two stop talking. Don't you see that Mom misses fourth uncle? What if Mom cries later?" Xia Huanhuan. Is she so hypocritical?
But
I don't know if he has arrived in Beijing. If he arrives in Beijing, will he not even have a rest and will immediately go on another mission? The train was a little late, and it was not until the evening that Li Zhan returned to the army. Bai Zihan was not polite either, and came in directly to search Li Zhan's luggage bag. "Your sister-in-law must have brought you a lot of delicious food when you went back this time. Let me see." After being kicked by Li Zhan, he quickly dodged with a smile and said unconvincedly, "I just want to take a look. I didn't say I want to eat it." Stingy. Li Zhan smiled and took out the well-marinated pig's trotters and other marinated food from the luggage bag. Bai Zihan's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, "Wow. Braised pig's trotters. Li Zhan, I find that your life in your hometown is better than ours in Beijing. Here are 4 pig's trotters. There is meat for every meal," Li Zhan said with a smile, "and these braised meats, pig's face, pig's ears, and so on. Go to the cafeteria and ask them to heat them up and give the brothers an extra meal tonight." Bai Zihan said with a smile, "Okay. I will make sure to tell the brothers that this is made by sister-in-law." Li Zhan kicked him again. "Delicious food can't stop your mouth.
get out.
Come back when it's done. I still have something to ask you." Bai Zihan dodged and continued to joke fearlessly. "It hasn't been eaten yet. How can it be stopped?" Alas, it's true that you get stupider after marrying a wife. After a while, Bai Zihan came back with a hot pig's trotter, saluted in a non-proper way, and said with a smile, "Report to the battalion commander. The instructions have been conveyed. Whatever you want to ask, I will tell you everything I know." Li Zhan glanced at the pig's trotter in his hand and said helplessly, "How come you have already eaten it? Why don't you let others have it?" Bai Zihan argued, "Don't you know that there are too many monks and too little porridge? Your men are all hungry wolves. I just walked out of your room and was targeted. You asked us to wait for dinner, but now I'm afraid they have all been snatched away. But don't worry, I snatched 2 of these pig's trotters, and I've already sent one to Captain Fu for you." Li Zhan had no choice but to let him do as he pleased, and asked, "Let me ask you, at the beginning of last spring, when I was injured and hospitalized, did you write a letter back to my hometown?" Bai Zihan's action of chewing the pig's trotter paused, and he looked up at Li Zhan with a guilty conscience, pretending to be confused. What letter?"
This.
Can't the truth be revealed? It shouldn't be. If the people in his hometown were deceived by him, why did they still marry him off? Wouldn't that mean they would harm the girl knowing the truth?
But
Judging from the behavior of those relatives in Li Zhan's hometown, they might really do it to get more money. Li Zhan saw his reaction and knew that he had probably written it, so he scolded, "Don't play it lightly. It's the letter saying that I was injured and couldn't do that as a man." Bai Zihan wiped the sweat off his face, chuckled twice, and said, Battalion commander, don't be angry. I'm actually doing this for your own good." "For my own good?" Li Zhan narrowed his eyes dangerously, moving the joints of his fingers, as if he was going to teach someone a lesson. Bai Zihan stepped back guiltily while holding the pig's trotter and quickly begged for mercy. Boss, isn't it okay that I was wrong?" Weren't we angry at that time?" Li Zhan frowned. "We? Isn't it that only one person knows about this?" Bai Zihan opened his mouth and decided to confess the matter. "Well, a method that several company-level cadres and I thought of. Weren't you shot in the chest that time? It was very serious. We sent a telegram to your hometown to inform you of your critical illness, thinking that someone might come to visit. But in the end, No one came to visit you, but a letter came, saying that you were old enough and it would be a good time to get married to cheer you up if you were injured, and you would get better. They also asked indirectly how much the pension would be if you died, and whether it would be more if you got married with family members. They also directly asked you to send some more money back, as a betrothal gift. We brothers were so angry that we wrote a letter for you, saying that you were injured in that area and could not get married, and asked them to give up the idea. We thought that in the future, we would not recognize the arranged wife you married from your hometown as your sister-in-law, so even if there were some gossips from your hometown, that would be even better, cough cough. I mean, no matter how bad your family is, they wouldn't tell anyone about this, right? Otherwise, why did your sister-in-law marry here? Li Jian was silent for a while after hearing these words. Before he left, Li Jie secretly asked him about that matter and told him about the letter, but he didn't know the details. Bai Zihan looked at Li Jian, and he was still angry when he thought about it now. Boss, we are really mad. You said that you sent almost all of your allowance back to your family for so many years, so that those who wanted to get married could get married, and those who wanted to have children could have children, but in the end, you were seriously injured, and you didn't say a word of concern, and even hoped that you would die to get a lot of those pensions. What kind of people are they?
And
if you really want to punish us, we have nothing wronged. It's just, our Fu Tuan also acquiesced to this. Anyway, if it happens again, we will still do the same. Li Jian was actually very moved after hearing this. These brothers really wanted the best for him, although the method, hurting 1,000 enemies and hurting themselves, no, it was just hurting 800 of them, but the original intention was good.
Captain Fu?
Li Jian had a headache. Why did second brother Fu also follow in his nonsense? Bai Zihan said, "That's right. I took the letter to send it, but it was seized by Captain Fu on the spot. After he opened the letter and read the contents, he returned it to me, without saying anything. If that's not tacit consent, what is it?" As he was talking, a low and majestic voice suddenly came from outside the door. "Bai Zihan, what are you talking about behind my back?" Li Jian and Bai Zihan looked back and saw that who else could it be but Fu Beifa? The two immediately stood at attention and saluted, saying seriously, "Captain." "At ease," Fu Beifa said, and then looked at Li Jian and said, "Now that you are back to the team, take a good rest tonight. The higher-ups have given us a new mission, and we'll set off early tomorrow morning." "Yes." Li Jian stood at attention again, answering seriously with a stern face. Fu Beifa nodded, then turned to leave. After thinking for a while, he turned back and said, "Your wife braised pig's trotters very well. You are in for a treat." Li Jian grinned when he heard his wife being praised. "Thank you for the compliment, Captain." Fu Beifa glared at him. "I'm not praising you. Look how happy you are." After Fu Beifa left, Bai Zihan smiled and said, "Look, I'm making up for my mistakes, right? My sister-in-law was praised by the captain." Li Jian turned around and glared at him. "Making up for my mistakes? You wish. Do you know that the whole commune knows about the rumors about me? Even your sister-in-law misunderstood me. Forget it. We have to hurry tomorrow. After this mission is over, you guys wait. There's no room for negotiation for the 10-kilometer cross-country run." Bai Zihan looked bitter and suddenly remembered something and asked in a mean way, "Even my sister-in-law misunderstood me? Boss, you won't tell me that you and your sister-in-law haven't consummated your marriage yet. Get out." Li Jian kicked him, without waiting for him to finish. Bai Zihan successfully dodged again and said with a smile, "That's impossible. How could our boss not have taken down sister-in-law yet?" Bai Zihan opened the door and went out, and several people rushed in. "Li Zhen."
Hee.
"Battalion commander, we just wanted to say that sister-in-law's cooking skills are really good." Several people said flatteringly, and then ran away. Bai Zihan was about to run, but Li Jian remembered something and called him again. "Old Bai." Bai Zihan had to come back. Li Jian did not mention the letter again, but asked, "Old Bai, when I was injured before the new year, you went to pick up your sister-in-law to visit me in Beijing. Did you tell her on the way that I was injured in Tianyan Mountain?" Bai Zihan was stunned, then recalled carefully, and shook his head affirmatively. "No. I should have just said that it was on the barren mountain." Our mission is confidential, and I can't tell the location casually. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell Master Fong. If my daughter hears it, it will hurt others and myself." Li Zhan frowned slightly. Bai Zihan didn't say it. So, how did his wife know about Tianyan Mountain? He felt something was wrong last night, and today he suddenly remembered that it was this location that was wrong. Seeing his expression, Bai Zihan couldn't help asking, "Why do you suddenly ask about this?" Li Zhan came back to his senses and smiled. "It's okay. I suddenly remembered it," and asked casually. Bai Zihan didn't delve into it and said, "Speaking of Master Fong, I heard that the commander of the division, his whole family went to the Northwest Military Region, and that Fong Yunru seemed to have gone to the countryside in Xinshi to join the team. Also, isn't the position of division commander vacant? I heard that our regiment commander Fu is about to be promoted. It seems that you will take over his position." Li Zhan scolded in a low voice, "Don't talk nonsense." Bai Zihan smiled and said, "Okay. The official appointment has not come down, so just assume that I am talking nonsense. But boss, think about it. If you are promoted to the regiment level, can't you bring your sister-in-law to follow the army? So that you won't be alone in the future."
Hey.
"Don't kick. Can I stop talking too much?" Xia Huanhuan certainly didn't know that she had been suspected by Li Zhan because of her slip of the tongue. The next morning, she sent the 3 kids out to play and stayed at home. Then she entered the space and moved directly to the house she bought in the county town. Li Zhan had been at home all this time, and except for occasionally coming out of the space to get those things, she had never been in, let alone using the space to come to the county town. No one had been in the house for more than 10 days, and Xia Huanhuan felt it was a bit deserted. Grandma Luo half sold and half gave the house to her. In fact, she also wanted to keep some popularity in the house. From this aspect, she, the new owner, was actually not very qualified. Xia Huanhuan rolled up her sleeves and cleaned the house inside and outside, as well as the yard, and took out the cotton quilt from the space. Bedding and other things were spread out in the bedroom on the 2nd floor, and the worn-out curtains and tablecloths were replaced with new ones. She would probably be the only one coming here in the short term, so she was not afraid of being asked where these things came from. After a simple tidying up, Xia Huanhuan went out and went to the place she had agreed to meet with Lu, the purchasing agent from the textile factory. It had been almost 2 weeks since the delivery before the new year, and it was just the appointed time. She went there first, took out the coarse grains, fine grains, meat, eggs, etc. from the space and put them away one by one, waiting. Not long after, Lu, the purchasing agent, really came over with a few people pulling a cart. This time, he asked for half a pork, 300 eggs, and more than 100 kilograms of coarse grains and fine grains, which brought in about 400 to 500 yuan. After loading the cart, Lu, the purchasing agent, asked, "Xiaodong, can you get glutinous rice flour and black sesame seeds? Oh, and peanuts, red beans, sugar, etc. Isn't the Lantern Festival coming soon? The canteen wants to make some dumplings for everyone." For ease of address, Xia Huanhuan used the fake surname she had told Yan Haotian before. Xia Huanhuan was stunned. She had forgotten about this. It should be possible to get it. It's just that sugar is a little difficult. Then Brother Lu, I'll come again the day after tomorrow and bring it to you? Her space was full of fine sugar, and it was a bit dangerous to sell it. Besides, sugar was not something that could be grown directly in the space. If she sold a little, it would be less, and she didn't want to sell it that much. "Thank you so much. I'll think of a way to get the sugar myself." After saying goodbye to Lu Saigo, Xia Huanhuan returned to the house again, and then went back home through the space. On the 3rd day, she went to the county town again and gave Lu Saigo glutinous rice flour, black sesame seeds, red beans, and the like. After returning, she calculated the time and found that it would be the 15th day of the 1st lunar month in 2 or 3 days. Xia Huanhuan took out the ingredients from the space and planned to make some dumplings to eat. At the same time, she couldn't help regretting why she didn't think of this a few days ago. If she had made it a few days earlier, Li Zhan could still eat it at home. When she was regretting, Xiaowen walked in and said, "Mom, the postman came to the village and said that there is a telegram for my 4th uncle and asked you to go and get it." When Xia Huanhuan heard this, She washed her hands and went out to find the postman to get the telegram. A remittance slip was also sent along with the telegram. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing. How could this person send money back just after leaving? The money he gave her when he came back before the new year had not been spent yet. She was too embarrassed to open the envelope and read the letter right away, so she hurried back. On the way, she saw Shan Wenxue limping and shoveling cow dung out of the cowshed from afar, putting it outside to dry, and waiting to be used as fertilizer during the spring plowing. Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly. She thought she had sprained her foot, and the commune should have found a doctor to see it. Now, it seems that no one has been taking care of it. However, she did not do anything immediately, but went home as usual and opened the telegram when she got home. Li Zhan did not say anything, but he had already arrived in Beijing and was about to leave for a new mission, so there might be no news in the next 1 or 2 months. The remittance slip was for 50 yuan, and she was asked to save the unused money first and wait until this year to build a new house. The 3 little guys came over and looked at Xia Huanhuan expectantly. "Mom, what did fourth uncle say?" "Mom, did fourth uncle say how many shell casings he picked up?" Xiao Wu is most concerned about the shell he has been thinking about day and night. Xia Huanhuan smiled and pinched his face, saying, "You little heartless man, you only remember your shell. Why don't you ask how your fourth uncle is doing?" After putting away the letter and the remittance slip, Xia Huanhuan began to make glutinous rice. First, prepare the fillings. She plans to make 3 kinds of fillings this time, one with red bean paste, one with black sesame, and one with peanuts. First, dry fry the black sesame and peanuts in a pan until cooked. Then crush the peanuts and grind them into powder. Grind the black sesame into powder as well. Add sugar, lard, and a little glutinous rice flour to the two, and mix them with water to make the filling. For the red bean filling, just boil the red beans until soft, then mash them into a paste, add sugar, and mix evenly. Next is to wrap the shell of the glutinous rice. Use warm water to mix glutinous rice flour into dough, cut into small pieces, roll it into a ball and flatten it, wrap the filling in it, roll it into a round shape, and coat it with a layer of dry glutinous rice flour to prevent sticking. After it is done, Xiaowen is asked to cook some first. She and the 3 kids each have a bowl of 7 or 8 to try first. Most children like sweets, and the fillings of the glutinous rice are added with sugar and lard, which are fragrant and sweet. The 3 kids eat them with their eyes shining. Bebe looked up and asked, "Mom, the glutinous rice are delicious. Can we eat glutinous rice every day in the future?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "How can that be? This is all sugar, and if you eat too much, your teeth will be eaten by bugs." When Bebe heard this, she widened her eyes in horror and covered her mouth. How can bugs be so bad? Don't eat Bebe's teeth. Woo-woo. Then Bebe won't eat glutinous rice. Xia Huanhuan was both amused and confused. She couldn't explain to her that tooth decay was actually caused by the teeth being corroded, not actually being eaten by worms. She could only comfort her. "Don't be afraid, Bebe. There won't be any worms if you eat a little bit occasionally." Bebe was half believing and half doubting, but finally couldn't resist the temptation of the glutinous rice, and obediently picked up the bowl and started eating. Xia Huanhuan made a lot, so she gave some to Xiaowen to send to Zhou Qiuhe's house. There were many children in her family, so they should like it very much. In this era, sugar and oil were luxury goods, and not many people were as generous as she was in making snacks and sweets among the glutinous rice. She also gave a portion out, and planned to go back to her parents' home tomorrow to send it to Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru. In addition, she also planned to send them some pork, of course, not the wild boar meat that Li Zhan had hunted 2 days ago, but the meat in the space. She had no intention of sharing the wild boar meat that Li Zhan had hunted. In the afternoon, Xia Huanhuan carried a bamboo basket into the mountains to pick some wild mushrooms and also dug some herbs. She had all kinds of herbs in her space, but the things in the space could be classified according to her wishes. She knew them when they grew in the space, but if they really grew with other plants in the deep mountains, she would still make mistakes, so she still had to practice more. This time she was lucky and dug some white atractylodes, erythema, and some wild ligustrum lucidum. After returning home, having dinner, and waiting for the three kids to wash and fall asleep, she took out some Chinese medicines such as Scutellaria bicolensis, frankincense, safflower, and Panax nodo ginseng from the space to dissolve blood stasis, dredge meridians, reduce swelling, and relieve pain. She found a canning bottle, poured in white wine, soaked the herbs in it, sealed it, wrapped the bottle with cloth, and took advantage of the night, being careful not to let others see it, and went to the cow. She walked towards the shed. She had never been involved in the affairs here, always staying away and concentrating on her own life. But after the last close contact with Shen Wanshue, she felt guilty for some reason when she wanted to stay out of it. Many of these people have made various great sacrifices and contributions for the country. It would be fine if she didn't see it, but if she really saw it with her own eyes, she would feel sorry and unfair for them. Xia Huanhuan thought that she would only send the medicine this time, and when the injury on her foot healed, she would not care about it anymore. Shen Wanshue lived in a thatched hut. When Xia Huanhuan arrived at the door, she heard the voice inside.
Alas,
the swelling is getting worse and worse. You need to use medicine quickly. I'm afraid you have to stop working these few days. Who doesn't know? But our report has been submitted. The doctor of the commune happened to go to the county to study these 2 days. I heard that there are not many medicines. There are no other doctors in this village. Who said there are no medicines? Wasn't Brother Yang an old Chinese medicine doctor at the Beijing City Hospital of Traditional Chinese Medicine? Brother Yang, what medicine do you think is needed? Let's talk to the village tomorrow and ask everyone to stop working for a day and go dig in the mountains to see if we can gather all these medicines. Alas, even if the village agrees, the right Chinese medicine can't be found in this season. Even if we can find it, it's not processed, and the efficacy is average. Then what should we do? If it doesn't work, we can only apply to go to the county hospital. The Shin family sister's eye disease has been getting worse recently. If she doesn't get treatment, she's probably going to be permanently blind. It's a good time to go together. Alas. Do you think the application will be approved? Now our words are like farts. Who will listen to us? Everyone was chatting, and then a gentle voice sounded. Big brothers and sisters, thank you. My foot is not in the way, and I will be fine on my own in a few days. As for my eyes, I know that it may be because I am too tired or depressed. I need to rest more and adjust myself, and it may get better in a few days. It's getting late, so everyone should go back and rest early. There's still cattle cleaning to do tomorrow.
the shed.
After everyone heard this, they had no other choice and dispersed. Xia Huanhuan hurriedly hid in a dark place nearby. After everyone left, she dared to knock on the door gently. Who? After Shen Wanshue and others left, she blew out the oil lamp. They didn't have much oil, so they had to use it sparingly. Besides, she couldn't see clearly with the lamp on now. Xia Huanhuan lowered her voice and said, Aunt Shin, my man helped you carry a bucket of water 2 days ago. Do you still remember? After hearing this, Shen Wanshue was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, It's you. Wait a moment, I'll open the door for you. Shen Wanshue opened the door, and Xia Huanhuan went in without letting him light the lamp. He said softly, Auntie, I have some Chinese medicinal materials at home, so I brought them to you. It should be of some use if you wipe the sprained area repeatedly. Shen Wanshue was a little flattered. This. How can this be done? Just in case. Just in case. Auntie, you don't need to be afraid of what might happen. I was careful when I came over so no one saw me. You should also hide the medicine and apply it when you go to bed at night. Don't let the smell of alcohol be discovered. Xia Huanhuan looked at her eyes again. Listening to what those people just said, her eyes can't see now, but this on the other hand, her knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine for three-legged cats was really helpless. Tears suddenly welled up in Shen Wanshue's unfocused eyes. She held Xia Huanhuan's hand tightly and whispered, Daughter, I really don't know. How should I thank you? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Madam, don't take it too seriously. I happen to have medicine at home, so it won't be a hassle. After saying a few words, Xia Huanhuan stood up and left for fear of being discovered. On the way back, he thought about it. There are so many Chinese medicinal materials in his space, and the farm can grow new ones at any time. But as for the three-legged cat, she only knew about taking tonics or injuries, but she was not sure whether the fever was caused by cold or internal heat. It was a waste. She decided to read more medical books from now on and study hard. Traditional Chinese medicine requires sufficient experience. Reading medical books is not enough.
Sigh.
When the village doctor comes back, she will see how to become a teacher. After returning, Xia Huanhuan pulled out Qianjin prescription from the space. There was a special Jiuli chapter about medicinal wine. In addition, there were dozens of records of medicinal wine in Compendium of Materia Medica. She took it over this time. The medicinal wine was actually a last resort. The soaking time was not enough, and the effect should not be very good, so she planned to soak some medicinal wine according to the medical book so that she would not have it when she needed it urgently. After thinking about it, she searched again. Regarding the treatment of eye diseases. According to records in medical books, eye diseases are mostly related to the liver and kidneys. There are also some prescriptions in the book, using medicinal materials such as dendrobium, cassia seeds, wolfberry, Tribulus terrestris, Rehmannia glutinosa, Ligusticum chuanxiong, Buddleia japonica, etc. She should have them all in her space. This is not because she knows Chinese medicine, but when preparing Chinese medicine, she directly asks experienced Chinese medicine practitioners to buy them according to the list of Chinese medicinal materials. However, there should be some rare varieties. The medicinal materials were useless, and she was not sure what the cause of Shen Wanxue's eye disease was, so how could she dare to prescribe medicine randomly? The Lantern Festival soon came, and Xia Huanhuan cooked some glutinous rice and ate them with the three little ones to celebrate the occasion. I didn't know what happened to Shen Wanxue's injury, so I took out some glutinous rice made a few days ago from the space, as well as a bottle soaked 2 days ago with geranium, safflower, cinnamon twigs, etc. Xia Huanhuan gave her the new medicinal wine. Said, "Madam, this bottle of medicinal wine has been soaked for a little longer, and it should be more effective than the previous bottle. You can give it a try." Shen Wanxue fumbled for her hand and said with a smile, "It's hard for you to keep thinking about my aunt, so my aunt won't accept it politely. Also, aunt doesn't know your name yet. Why don't you tell her your name?" After she came here, when she saw people in the village or educated youth, she would stay away as far as possible. She tried not to cause trouble and did not have anything to do with others, for fear of injuring others. But this girl and her husband had helped her several times, but she wanted to know her name anyway. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "What's the inconvenience?" "Auntie, my name is Xia Huanhuan." After hearing this, Shen Wanxue smiled and said, "Huanhuan? But Chanzhuanzuan? It's a good name." Xia Huanhuan pursed her lips and smiled, saying, "No. It is a trickle of flowing water, which belongs to water." While she couldn't help but sigh in her heart, it was the lady of the aristocratic family who spoke so well. Shen Wanxue smiled and said, "Huanhuan? The hibiscus on the cactus is still dripping with golden dew. Also a good name. Xia Huanhuan. I've read too little, and I can't even keep up. I'm so embarrassed. Auntie, your literary talent is really good." Shen Wanxue waved her hand and smiled shyly. "I am old. When I was young, I was forced by the adults in my family to memorize so many poems and songs that I can no longer remember them. However, I dare to say these things in front of you, my daughter, but if I say them in front of others, I am afraid it will cause another disaster." Xia Huanhuan was greatly moved. What Shen Wanxue said was absolutely right. In her current situation, sometimes saying the wrong thing would be a disaster. What's more, what about these? At this moment, being able to show it in front of her, this shows his trust in her. "Auntie, don't worry. I won't tell anyone." Shen Wanxue smiled and asked, "From now on, I'll just call you Huanhuan, okay?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Of course, you can call me whatever you want, ma'am." After thinking about it, she still said, "Mom, when I came over that night, I accidentally heard someone talking in your room. It seemed that there was an uncle who used to be a doctor at the Beijing Traditional Chinese Medicine Hospital, right?" Shen Wanxue hesitated for a moment, nodded, and said with a smile, "Oh, that man's name is Yang Qiushi. We all call him Lao Yang." He comes from a Xinglin family, and his ancestors have opened medical clinics for generations. When he was young, his family had medicine halls all over the country, practicing medicine to help the world, and also doing business in Chinese medicinal materials. It's a pity. Shen Wanxue didn't say any more. Xia Huanhuan said at the right time, Annie, I don't have any other intention in asking this. It's just that your eye disease is getting worse. If you don't want Uncle Yang to diagnose and treat you and prescribe a prescription, I usually go to the mountains to collect some medicinal materials. In addition, it is easier for me to go to the commune doctor to see a doctor and prescribe medicine. Maybe I can collect the prescription. Medicine. Shen Wanxue couldn't help but be startled after hearing Xia Huanhuan's words. Her eye disease was just blurred occasionally at first, and it got better after a while, but then it became more and more serious. First, her eyes were blurry all day long, and then for a few days or even several times a day, her vision would suddenly turn black, which was almost a symptom of total blindness. In fact, she was somewhat mentally prepared for total blindness in her own situation, but her child. Even if she was completely blind, she would be completely blind. It doesn't matter, just before she becomes completely blind, can she see the child she lost again? Shen Wanxue thought about it, and tears welled up in her empty eyes. Xia Huanhuan was startled. Auntie, if I say something wrong and make you sad. Shen Wanxue held Xia Huanhuan's hand tightly. Whether it was the young girl in front of her or Lao Yang, she originally didn't want to cause trouble. She was afraid of hurting them, but if she was really blind, how would she find her child in the future? How would she recognize him? She shook her head vigorously and said in a trembling voice, Huanhuan, it's not that you said something wrong. It's me. In my heart, I'm so grateful that I don't know what to say. Xia Huanhuan knew that she must have agreed to do this, so she smiled and said, Mom, don't take it too seriously. Li Zhan and I. Maybe it was fate that we met you that day. Shen Wanxue was stunned for a moment, then realized and asked almost eagerly, What you just said belongs to your husband. Name? Called Li Zhan?
Yes.
Which 2 words are they? Xia Huanhuan looked at Shen Wanxue suspiciously and said, It's just so powerful, the battle of war. Shen Wanxue was startled for a moment, then returned to his original state and laughed softly. Oh, Auntie misunderstood. This name is similar to that of a relative of Auntie. Xia Huanhuan found it strange, but Shen Wanxue obviously wanted to prevaricate her, so she didn't want to dig into it any further, so she gave her the glutinous rice dumplings and said, Auntie, I made this.
You can cook glutinous rice.
Today is the Lantern Festival, so eating glutinous rice should be appropriate for the occasion. The group was reunited. Shen Wanxue couldn't help but shed tears again and said softly, Hey. Xia Huanhuan then went back. She didn't dare to go too often, for fear of being seen. 2 days later, she went there again. As expected, Yang Qiushi had already written the prescription. She didn't stay for long, but took the prescription and went back. The next night, she sent the above medicinal materials over. Xia Huanhuan didn't go there again in the next few days. She went into the mountains as usual to pick some wild mushrooms and recognized various plants. If she came across any medicinal materials she knew, she would dig them up. She was even lucky enough to dig up a wild ginseng. However, she didn't quite understand how to prepare the newly dug medicinal materials, so she stored them in the space first. Anyway, as long as they were in the space, they could keep the freshly dug medicinal materials. It is still fresh and will not go bad. Xia Huanhuan plans to wait until she learns how to prepare herbs from medical books. Uncle Lu, the doctor of the commune, has returned from studying in the county. Xia Huanhuan would go to the clinic from time to time to ask for advice on how to prepare the herbs she dug. However, Uncle Lu was actually a barefoot doctor before. He had not received any systematic training and could not recognize many herbs. Therefore, Xia Huanhuan gave up the idea of becoming his apprentice. After thinking about it, Uncle Yang would be a good candidate for a master. However, Uncle Yang's situation was caused by his background. The last prescription had already made him take a risk. How could she have the nerve to ask for help again for her own selfish reasons and let others teach her at risk? The prescription prescribed by Yang Qiushi can be decocted 3 times, and then according to the efficacy, a new prescription and new medicine will be prescribed. Seeing that it was almost time, Xia Huanhuan went over again to get a new prescription and send the herbs over later. I don't know whether it was intentional or not. The basis and speculation of the diagnosis were written on the prescription written by Uncle Yang last time. It mentioned that Shen Wanxue's condition was due to long-term malnutrition, coupled with the sadness and depression in her chest, which caused insufficient liver qi and eventually led to the symptoms of eye disease. Even the cornmeal steamed buns were not available for the last meal. It is normal to be malnourished. Therefore, this time when she went there, she secretly brought over a pound of white flour and a pound of cornmeal, as well as a few eggs and half a pound of meat. Anyway, she has already done a good deed, so she might as well do it to the end. At least wait until Shen Wanxue's eye disease is cured. However, this time, not only Shen Wanxue, but also Yang Qiushi is waiting for her. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, not knowing why Uncle Yang was also here. After Shen Wanxue drank the medicine 3 times, her eyes have improved a lot, and she can vaguely see people's figures. The previous situation of sudden darkness in front of her eyes has not appeared again. Shen Wanxue groped over, took Xia Huanhuan's hand, and said with a smile, "Huanhuan, are you interested in Chinese medicine? I see that you have some foundation, but you haven't learned it deeply.
Do you
Want a master?" Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, and subconsciously looked at Yang Qiushi. Yang Qiushi seemed to be a little embarrassed and coughed twice. Shen Wanxue smiled and said, "I heard from Lao Yang that he saw you several times asking Dr. Liu from the commune how to prepare the herbs collected from the mountains and what basic medicinal effects they had. I thought that you might want to learn more, so I shamelessly mentioned it to Lao Yang. Lao Yang seemed to like you very much and readily agreed. So, if you are willing, you can come and ask Uncle Yang at any time if you have anything you want to ask or learn in the future." Xia Huanhuan was naturally overjoyed when she heard it. Having such an old Chinese doctor to solve her doubts is naturally better than reading a medical book that is half classical and half vernacular by herself. "Really? Uncle Yang, no. You should call me Master. Master, if you are willing to teach me, isn't that my blessing?"
How could I not want to?
Xia Huanhuan quickly agreed very sincerely. Yang Qiushi was a strict and reserved person. He felt a little embarrassed when he heard Shen Wanxue directly say that he liked Xia Huanhuan, a little girl. Ahem.
I
just thought she had some qualifications, but it was a pity that there was no one to teach her. That's why I agreed to take her in. If she is lazy and doesn't study hard in the future, I will immediately sever the master-disciple relationship with her." Xia Huanhuan thought she had agreed and said with a smile, "Master, don't worry. With a great master like you, how could I be lazy?" Although Yang Qiushi himself came from a medical family and studied Chinese medicine since childhood, he actually studied abroad and systematically studied Western medicine when he was young. He graduated from a regular medical school and returned to China after completing his studies. He still had the free and unrestrained thinking of the progressive young people of those days, and he didn't care about those red tapes, so he let Xia Huanhuan call him master. He responded and gave a few more solemn instructions, and the master-disciple relationship was established. The 3 of them gathered together and discussed it briefly. Considering that they might be seen by some people with ulterior motives and reported, Xia Huanhuan couldn't come here every day. When they met, they were still the same as now, without saying hello and pretending that there was no connection. Every 6 or 7 days, Xia Huanhuan came over at night, picked out the content that she didn't understand in the medical books, and asked Yang Qiushi to explain it. Yang Qiushi also picked out some content from various medical books and asked Xia Huanhuan to focus on reading it, and asked her to memorize some content. In addition, there are various methods and practices of preparing medicinal materials, methods and key points of observation, smell, questioning, and palpation. Because there are many things to memorize and understand, Xia Huanhuan's life is busier and more fulfilling than before. She still goes up the mountain to pick some wild mushrooms every few days, mainly to pick herbs, and occasionally takes the three kids into the mountains. Under her influence, even the three kids can distinguish several kinds of herbs. In the afternoon, she usually teaches the kids to learn to write a few new characters or something. After the three kids go out to play, she takes out the newly picked herbs from the space and tries to prepare them according to Uncle Yang's teachings and the records in the medical books. In the private plot, the spinach seeds planted with Li Zhan have also sprouted and grown. Although there is everything spinach in her space, Xia Huanhuan still feels a sense of accomplishment. She would pick a basket of them with a bamboo basket, wash off the dirt on the red roots, and then put them directly into the pot with the roots, stir-frying them with lard. This was a very common dish on their winter dinner table, or they could just eat it in hot pot. Every time she went to the cowshed, she would take some white flour, pork, bacon, sausage, and eggs, as well as the freshly picked spinach from her private plot, her own pickled spicy cabbage, sour radish, etc., which she would also send to Xinhuan Chiyue and Yang Qiushi. In addition to food and ingredients, sometimes she would make chicken soup with tonic herbs such as ginseng and angelica and send it over. She would carefully pick out the herbs every time, but every time Yang Qiushi would taste it, he would still be able to accurately list out what herbs she had put in, which was simply amazing. And she would ride her bicycle to the town every 2 or 3 days to buy some meat, eggs, and daily necessities from the supply and marketing cooperative. She followed Director Zheng to help with the purchase of goods in the county several times, but she still went there through the space most of the time. She took out a sweet-scented osmanthus tree and a crabapple tree from the space in the late winter and early spring and planted them in the yard of the small courtyard she bought from the county. In addition, since she had the space, there was no need to keep the original vegetable garden in the yard, so she planted some roses and peonies on that piece of land. On the black market side, the canteen purchase of another large factory in the county, the wood processing factory, probably heard the news from others and didn't know how to persuade Lu to make a connection, so they also bought supplies from Xia Huanhuan once every half a month. In this way, the income from selling supplies doubled, and she earned 1,000 yuan every half a month. Therefore, Xia Huanhuan no longer went to the black market to sell supplies sporadically at risk, and only kept the fixed transactions of these two supplies. After each transaction, he would leave without delay, even turning around a corner and immediately entering the space to prevent others from following him. A few days after the Lantern Festival, it was the rainwater in the 24 solar terms. It drizzled for several days, and the weather became warmer day by day. After another half a month, it was the Qingzhe in the early second month of the lunar calendar. The winter idleness was over, and the busy spring plowing was about to begin. Secretary Zhao used a loudspeaker to call the entire commune together and held a mobilization meeting for the spring plowing. Everyone has been staying at home for a whole winter. Today is the waking of insects, and the ground has thawed. It's time for everyone to move. This year, we must ensure the yield of summer wheat, and we must not let down the sweet potatoes, millet, soybeans, sorghum, mung beans, and cotton that are planted during spring plowing. If everyone fails collectively, then in the fall, everyone will not be able to pay the public grain, and after a year of hard work, they will not be able to get enough rations, and they will starve. This year's farm work will still be decided by drawing lots to decide which family will do what farm work. You can switch privately, but after the switch, if you don't complete it well, I will only find the person who drew the lot first. Don't cry and complain to me then. Another thing is that during the busiest days of spring plowing, everyone has to come out to work, and each household must complete a certain amount of work points of farm work. Unless there are special circumstances, no leave is allowed. Xia Huanhuan listened to Secretary Zhao's meaning. Even if she had Li Zhan's allowance and could live without earning work points, she still had to do farm work during the spring plowing and autumn harvest. However, she didn't have much resistance. Since she had traveled to this era, some things had to be done personally. As soon as the mobilization meeting was over, Lu Lan asked Zhou Qiuhe to call Xia Huanhuan, saying that she wanted to hold a family meeting. Xia Huanhuan ignored it. She might as well make more tofu if she had that time. Making tofu at home is actually quite simple. All you need is soybeans and vinegar. The soybeans had been soaked the day before, and they were so cute when they were swollen. After washing them with clean water, they were ground into soy milk. Xia Huanhuan was lazy in this step and directly used the soy milk machine in the space to grind it. After grinding, find a clean gauze, pour the bean dregs into it, squeeze out the soy milk inside, and then filter the soy milk with gauze. Boil the soy milk over high heat, let it dry for a while, pick off the solidified bean skin on it, dilute the white vinegar with water, pour it in, and stir until tofu pudding appears. After standing for a while, use a square wooden mold, put gauze on it, pour the tofu pudding in, cover it with gauze, and then squeeze it with a wooden board of the same wood and put heavy objects on it until the water is squeezed out. The tender tofu needs to be pressed for a shorter time, and the old tofu needs to be pressed for a longer time. Xia Huanhuan quickly made a large piece of tofu and planned to make a fried tofu, a tofu fish soup, and a cold tofu with scallions in the evening.
Well,
I'll send a piece to Aunt Shin and the master in the cowshed in the evening. Zhou Qiuhe came over not long after the tofu was made. As soon as she entered the door, she covered her stomach and laughed. Ouch! You missed the show because you didn't go to the meeting. I almost suffocated from trying to hold back my laughter. It turned out that the reason Lulan had called the meeting this time was to discuss the distribution of farm work for the spring plowing season. In the past, the Li family did not split up, and the whole family was considered one household. The farm work was done by the sons and daughters-in-law, mainly the eldest sister-in-law who had remarried and Zhou Qiuhe, while Lulan, Li Qiaoqiao, and Wang Guixiang were almost hands-off managers. Now that the eldest son of the Li family is dead, his daughter-in-law has remarried, and the third and fourth sons have all moved out. The farm work of Lulan and Li Qiaoqiao has fallen entirely on the second son's family. Lulan still favored her second son, so she planned to let the third and fourth son's families, since the fourth son was not at home. Of course it would be Xia Huanhuan, but if it was converted into money for her, she would not object. Each family would share some of the burden, and she and her daughter Li Qiaoqiao would continue to be hands-off managers. It's a pity that the wishful thinking didn't work this year. Xia Huanhuan simply refused to attend, not giving any face at all. Although Li Jie and Zhou Qiuhe went, Li Jie interrupted Lulan halfway through her speech, saying coldly that the farm work for the five of them was not finished yet, and they could not do Lulan and Li Qiaoqiao's share. After that, he took Zhou Qiuhe and was about to leave. Lulan was so angry that her nose was about to be crooked. She had no choice but to look at the second son Li Chang and Wang Guixiang. Ever since Lulan scolded Wang Guixiang and irritated her during the Chinese New Year, Wang Guixiang has never been kind to Lulan. Lulan just wanted the second son and his wife to take on her and Li Qiaoqiao's at least her own share of the farm work. As a result, before she could open her mouth, Wang Guixiang kicked Li Chang hard, signaling him to speak. Li Chang was a bit henpecked, so he said, "Mom, I discussed with my wife, and we plan to separate and live separately." Lulan was stunned, and then she was so angry that her heart ached. Even her most biased son was going to rebel? This was all because of marrying that witch Xia Huanhuan. Thinking of Xia Huanhuan, Lulan suddenly remembered the expression on her face when she pushed her to the ground in the yard that day and said with a smile that she would break her hands and feet.
She shuddered.
She didn't dare to confront Xia Huanhuan head-on now, but she was still thinking of bad tricks to deal with Xia Huanhuan. However, the most urgent task now is to suppress the second son and the second daughter-in-law first. Lulan suppressed her anger and cursed. Why divide the family? Look at how many people are left in the big family and still divide it? You can divide it if you want to. The third brother gives me 100 work points a month, and the fourth brother gives me 5. Give me a 10 yuan allowance a month. I won't let you give me 10 yuan like the fourth brother. Just do like the third brother and give me 100 work points a month as a pension for my retirement. She dared not reveal the fact that Li Zhan reduced her allowance to 5 yuan. Otherwise her sons would follow suit and make a big fuss. Before Li Chan could say anything, Wang Guixiang had already rushed out, pointing at Lulan's nose and cursing. Bah! I still gave you 100 work points? Who do you think you are, you old man? The eldest brother is dead. The third and fourth brothers have also been divided out, and you and your sister-in-law are 2 living people. It's been almost a year, and you are not all supported by me and my husband, and yet you are as picky as the Empress Dowager Cixi, not wanting to eat this or that. You want meat today and chicken tomorrow. Why don't you go to heaven? You said that the third and fourth brothers gave you so many work points and money. How come I have never seen a penny? What the Hades? Now that your other sons don't care about you, you want to rely on us? I tell you, no way. In this family today, you have to get points whether you want to divide it or not. Lulan was so angry at Wang Guixiang that she was shaking all over. In her eyes, Wang Guixiang has always been stupid, lazy, and unreasonable, so she has used her very well in the past few years. At home, if you're a little partial to Wang Guixiang, you will be bought off. When she dislikes her eldest son's wife or the third son's wife, or anyone in the village, she will instigate a few words, and Wang Guixiang will immediately come out to quarrel with her two sisters-in-law and the villagers. It can be said that except for meeting Xia Huanhuan, Wang Guixiang has never lost a quarrel. She didn't expect that a dog she raised would bite her back, and now he dared to yell at her directly. Second brother, look at your wife's arrogance. I'm your biological mother. She dares to point at my nose and scold me, and you don't hit her. Tear her mouth. Li Chang looked at his wife, then at Lulan, and then said, Mom, I think my wife is right. Last time when the fourth son separated from the family, Secretary Zhao also said that you probably have hundreds of dollars in your hands. The third and fourth sons are still giving you money every month. Why don't you give us a penny? Mom, if you really don't want to divide this family, it's not impossible. In the future, you can give us $5 a month, and I promise that you will never be allowed to work in the fields, and my wife will prepare 3 meals a day at home and bring them to you. Lulan saw that her most partial son since childhood was singing a double act with his wife, trying to cheat her of the pension money in her hand. Listen to what that old man surnamed Zhao said. How can I have so much money? Yes. The fourth son has sent back a lot of money over the years. But your father didn't have to spend money on funerals? Didn't he spend money on marrying wives for your brothers? Let alone anything else. Your wife asked for 50 yuan as a betrothal gift. Did I give it to your mother? Now you are so good. Not only is he unfilial to your mother, but he is also blackmailing her. Li Chang's face turned cold when he heard this, and he interrupted her impatiently. What do you mean by blackmail? Mom, don't be so harsh. Humph. Anyway, I've already said it. If you don't give us 5 yuan a month, then you and Xiao Xiao don't even think about eating a grain of rice from my house in the future. And the two of you do your farm work by yourselves. After saying this, he went back to his room with Wang Guixiang without looking back. Lulan was left with a blue and black face, which was very exciting. At this time, Li Xiaoqiao rushed up from the side, lowered her voice, and asked in a panic, Mom, did you really tell my second brother that you have hundreds of dollars in your hand? If so, can you give me 200 yuan? I have an urgent need. Brother Jie Yuan was arrested by the police. I heard from the educated youth in the village who knew the situation that he might be sentenced to 20 years of labor reform. But the educated youth said that he knew someone in the city who could rescue Jie Yuan and release him, without charge for only 200 yuan. Mom, give me 200 yuan, I'm pregnant with Jie Yuan's child. Lulan was so angry that she slapped Li Xiaoqiao in the face, causing her mouth and nose to bleed, and she threw her to the ground. Li Chang was tall and strong, so she didn't dare to hit him, and she didn't dare to teach her own daughter a lesson. Bah! Shameless little witch, each of you is an ungrateful rascal. I have provided you with food and clothing for 20 years, and you didn't say that I did farm work and cooked for your mother, but you asked for 200 yuan? Who gave you the face? You want money? I don't have a penny. Xia Huanhuan listened to Zhou Qiuhe's retelling with a sarcastic smile on her lips. With those few extreme guys, it was only a matter of time before the situation of dogs biting each other today ended. She was not surprised at all. Let them make trouble. It has nothing to do with us anyway. Zhou Qiuhe nodded and said, That's right. Huan, it's a good thing that you and your fourth brother are setting an example in front of us. Otherwise Li Jia and I would not be able to stand up, and I'm afraid we would still be bullied by that bunch of people. After thinking about it, She couldn't help but sigh, oh. Do you think she really has hundreds of dollars in her hand? If she really has, that's all the money that my fourth brother earned when he was in the army. Since you are married, she, as a mother and a mother-in-law, should at least give you half of it back, right? She is so greedy. Xia Huanhuan didn't respond, but just smiled. If Li Zhan didn't ask for that money, I, as a daughter-in-law, definitely couldn't ask for it. Zhou Qiuhe was stunned for a moment when she heard it, and then her face flushed. Huan, I didn't say that to instigate you to ask for it. I really just feel unfair for you. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Third sister-in-law, you think too much. I didn't doubt your meaning. I'm just speaking objectively. After all, Li Zhan's identity is there. If we really ask for the money directly, it would be bad if people spread rumors that he is unfilial. Zhou Qiuhe's face was still red with embarrassment, regretting that she spoke without thinking, and said, You are still thoughtful. When I heard that it was several hundred yuan, I was just excited and didn't think about these things at all. Please don't be surprised. Xia Huanhuan had been dealing with Zhou Qiuhe for these days and knew that she was not that kind of person, so she smiled and comforted her. Don't worry. Don't I know you? But I'm not cursing her here. With Li Chang and Li Qiao around, she may not be lucky enough to spend that money. After a few more small talk, Zhou Qiuhe was about to go back, and Xia Huanhuan gave her a piece of tofu she made. Zhou Qiuhe was naturally very moved and felt at ease, knowing that Xia Huanhuan really didn't doubt her. After seeing Zhou Qiuhe off, Xia Huanhuan looked towards Lu Lan's room, and a sneer appeared at the corner of her lips. She told Zhou Qiuhe that if Li Zhan didn't ask for it, she wouldn't ask for it either, which was half true and half false. Not asking for it directly is one thing, but that doesn't mean that she will let the money be taken by others. In the past, she and Li Zhan were literally husband and wife living together, and she needed Li Zhan's identity as his daughter-in-law as a cover to gain a foothold first, so she didn't care about Li Zhan's money. But now that she and Li Zhan are already de facto husband and wife, she can't let others bully and exploit her man. Even if it was exploited in the past, it's not allowed. This money must be taken back sooner or later. After Jingzhi, there is a solar term every half a month, namely the spring equinox and Qingming, followed by grain rain. The farm work during the period from Jingzhi to Qingming is relatively not so heavy. It is mainly weeding the wheat that has survived the winter, sowing spring corn and spring potatoes, and raising seedlings for sweet potatoes and cotton to be planted around grain rain. The real busyness is to plant sweet potatoes in time around grain rain. In this era, the per-acre yield of grain is not high. One season of sweet potatoes is half a year of grain. If you miss the opportunity to plant, the sweet potatoes will only grow seedlings but not sweet potatoes, and this season will be wasted. In addition, cotton, millet, sorghum, mung beans, and other crops must be planted in time around Qingming and grain rain. Not long after Jingzhi, the commune began to draw lots to allocate farm work based on villages. Xia Huanhuan got the job of breeding cotton and sweet potatoes. This is a good job. The seed beds are ready-made, only 1 or 2 mu of land, unlike other early corn, early potatoes, and soybeans, where 1 mu is half an acre and 8 mu per person. But correspondingly, the work points earned in a day are also less. The content of the work to be done is to plant cotton seeds and sweet potato tubers selected for seedlings into the soil to prevent drought and waterlogging and bird pecking, and to check the germination status every day. The blind seedlings must be replanted in time to avoid missing the opportunity to transplant them to the ground later. Xia Huanhuan had never done farm work before she traveled through time, but the original owner had done everything. Although there is still a gap between memory and reality, with these memories and experience, Xia Huanhuan still completed the task very well and could earn 6 work points a day. After completing the farm work of the commune, Xia Huanhuan went to grow vegetables in her private plot. The spinach planted in winter can be planted until March and April, so Xia Huanhuan left a small spinach field and picked all the others, giving some to Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru, and sending some to the cowshed. The empty land was tilled and irrigated, and then small green vegetables, lettuce, cabbage, cauliflower, potatoes, lettuce, onions, garlic sprouts, eggplants, leeks, cucumbers, tomatoes, and peppers were planted. Not much of each was planted, mainly for a name, and they could be supplemented from the space later. In addition, 2 fields were reserved for planting cowpeas, sword beans, winter melons, and pumpkins later. They would be planted around the Qingming festival, which is the so-called planting melons and beans. The 3 little guys were not idle either. Xia Huanhuan didn't need the 1 or 2 work points they earned, so she didn't let them go to the fields to water them. When she was tending to her private plot, the 3 of them followed to help sow seeds, water them with a small bucket, cover the seeds with soil, etc. There was also one person holding a small and carrying a small bamboo basket to dig wild vegetables on the ridge of the field. Shepherd's purse, purslane, wild sesame amaranth, etc. have gradually grown. There are also ferns that are only found in the mountains, but this summer Huanhuan was afraid that it would be dangerous for them to go into the mountains, so she didn't pick much. Anyway, there is more farm work in spring, and Huanhuan's life in summer is not much different from winter. It is still quite comfortable and fulfilling. On the contrary, Lulan and Li Qiaoqiao are quite miserable. Lulan was reluctant to give up the 5 yuan a month, and finally, under the witness of the commune, her second son Li Chong still separated from her. In this way, she and Li Qiaoqiao can only do the farm work assigned to them. Their luck is average. They drew lots to plant potatoes, half an acre each. This work is not difficult, but tiring. Potatoes are easy to work with. Just plow the land with cut the stored potatoes into several large pieces, bury them in the soil, and then carry water to water them. How many years have they not done farm work? Especially Li Qiaoqiao, who has been spoiled by Lulan since she was a child. She doesn't even know what to plant and harvest in the 4 seasons.
She only knows how to eat.
Now she was asked to use to turn the soil, and her movements were so stiff and ugly. She would hit her feet from time to time, jumping and screaming in pain. The mother and daughter had not worked for a while before they complained about the hard work and tiredness and sat down on the ground to rest. In just a few days, they became the laughingstock of the whole commune and were criticized by the village team cadres. In addition to making fun of these 2 lazy bones, the villagers also spread rumors about Li Qiaoqiao. Li Qiaoqiao started to hook up with Su Jiayuan at the end of last year. Counting the time, it has been 3 or 4 months. Isn't she starting to show her pregnancy? Oh my, an unmarried girl with such a heavy body. Why don't you think of a way to abort her? How shameless. That's right. Even a child can see it now. I'm afraid no man will want her in the future. I heard that the child in her belly is from the educated youth who was arrested some time ago.
Alas.
Why keep the child of a labor camp prisoner? How stupid. Li Qiaoqiao was very anxious when she heard the rumors pointing fingers at her. The child cannot be aborted. She was still hoping to use this child to force Su Jiayuan to marry her and take her back to the city to work. Su Jiayuan was arrested now, but Wang Dajuan, the educated youth at the educated youth point, said that he could get him out for 200 yuan. If she really rescued Su Jiayuan, wouldn't he be grateful to her and marry her immediately? The 200 yuan must be obtained quickly, otherwise she would get married with a big belly. It didn't matter what the villagers thought of her, but how would her future mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and neighbors in the city look at her? Thinking of this, Li Qiaoqiao looked at Lulan gloomily. Lulan had been working in the farm for a long time and was so tired that her back and waist ached. She didn't notice the look in Li Qiaoqiao's eyes. She cried ouch, ouch, and said, Qiaoqiao, you take care of the rest. I'm really exhausted. I'm going home to rest first. As she said that, she was about to get up and slip away. How could Li Qiaoqiao bear this loss? She immediately pulled Lulan to stop her from leaving. Mom, what are you talking about? You're tired, but am I not tired too? Others may not know, but you don't? I am pregnant with your future grandson, who has a city hukou. You push everything to me. Aren't you afraid that I will be so tired that you will lose your eldest grandson? Li Qiaoqiao's voice was loud, and the villagers who worked with them heard it and were stunned. It would be fine if others spread rumors in private, but Li Qiaoqiao didn't hide it herself and loudly publicized her ugly deeds in public. What kind of weird idiot is this? If it gets out that there is such a shameless person in their commune, they will all be ashamed. Lulan was also furious. Whose IQ did this idiot inherit? With a slap, she slapped Li Xiaoqiao without thinking and whispered, "Shut up. Aren't you ashamed?" Li Xiaoqiao was stunned by the beating, and then her face was twisted with anger. She grabbed Lulan's hair and scolded. "Okay. I endured it last time you hit me, but now you hit me again. The second brother separated from you, and the other two sons don't care about you. You don't have the ability to settle accounts with them, so you hit me, right? I tell you, I, Li Xiaoqiao, am not someone who can be bullied." As she said that, she wrestled with Lulan without caring about her image. "Ouch, ouch. You little witch, I raised you so big just to raise you to beat me? I'll beat you to death today." Lulan also screamed in pain and started to grab and twist Li Xiaoqiao. Villagers. After being stunned for a while, they hurriedly went up to pull the two weird mother and daughter apart. The two of them were so disheveled from the fight that they looked like they were cross-eyed. Xia Huanhuan was speechless when she heard about these jokes later. She always thought that although Lulan was insidious, she was still a person who paid attention to her dignity. Now she has become the laughingstock of the whole commune.
Well,
she deserves it. However, Xia Huanhuan did not get involved in their bad things, but just paid a little more attention to Li Xiaoqiao's whereabouts. A few days after the fight with Lulan, Li Xiaoqiao really ran to the Educated Youth Point from time to time, or the educated youth named Wang Dajuan at the Educated Youth Point also frequently made appointments with Li Xiaoqiao. Xia Huanhuan guessed that Li Xiaoqiao might take action in the next few days. Sure enough, a few days later, in the middle of the night, Xia Huanhuan noticed that Li Xiaoqiao secretly opened the door and went out. She followed her without making a sound. Li Xiaoqiao carried a small bag on her back and walked carefully to the village entrance. Sure enough, Wang Dajuan was waiting there. When he saw her coming, he came out from the dark and asked in a low voice, "Did you get the money?" Li Xiaoqiao lifted the bag on her shoulder, looked around nervously, and said, "I got it." "Where is it? Let me see." Wang Dajuan stretched out his hand and asked anxiously. Li Xiaoqiao frowned and whispered, "I will give it to you when I see Brother Jiyuan otherwise." Wang Dajuan interrupted her impatiently. "Stop talking nonsense. If you don't take it out now, go back by yourself and pretend I didn't say anything about this." "Humph. If you don't show it to me, how can I know if you tricked me into running errands for you in vain?" Li Xiaoqiao had to fumble in her bag for a long time before she took out a thick stack of 10 yuan bills.
Wang.
"Brother Wang, this is 300 yuan and the other 100 is to thank you for helping to save Brother Jiyuan." Wang Dajuan snatched it, counted it with trembling hands, and looked greedily at Li Xiaoqiao's bag. However, he did not make any other moves, but said with a smile on his face, "Wouldn't it be over if you took it out earlier? It's so troublesome. Let's go. Someone I know is waiting for us in the county to take us to Jincheng to find Su Jiyuan." When Li Xiaoqiao heard this, she showed joy on her face and said, "Really? That's great. Brother Wang, let's go." Xia Huanhuan was speechless when she saw Li Xiaoqiao being so stupid. Su Jiyuan's crime was a serious crime, which was enough to be sentenced to death. It is estimated that his sister found some connections at home, and the incident happened a long time ago, and the evidence found by the police was not sufficient, so he was sentenced to more than 20 years of labor reform. If Wang Dajuan really had the ability to find someone to overturn Su Jiyuan's case, why would he not be able to avoid going to the countryside himself and come to Qingshui village as an educated youth? However, Xia Huanhuan didn't care much about how Li Xiaoqiao was deceived. She followed him just to get back the money that belonged to Li Zhan. The two of them left the village and walked towards the town for a long time. Li Xiaoqiao found that they seemed to have taken a wrong turn, so she asked, "Wang, Brother Wang, this doesn't seem to be the way to the town. Did we take a wrong turn?" Wang Dajuan frowned and said vaguely, "We are going to the county. This is a shortcut to the county. Of course it is different from going to the town." Li Xiaoqiao said, "Oh," and didn't dare to say anything else. After walking for a while, they were getting more and more off the track. Suddenly, 2 or 3 men came out of a small forest beside the road and blocked their way. Li Qiaoqiao was startled. Wang Dajun turned around and said, "Li Qiaoqiao, these are the people I know. Go with them. They will take you to Jincheng to find Su Jiyuan." No matter how dumb Li Qiaoqiao was, she could see that something was wrong. The men in front of her were all wearing patched clothes.
How could they be city people?
If they were not city people, how could they have the connections to rescue Su Jiyuan? The 3 men approached Li Qiaoqiao. Li Qiaoqiao saw that something was wrong and immediately screamed in fear. She turned around and ran towards the village. Unfortunately, how could she outrun the 3 big men? They caught up with her in a few steps, slapped her hard several times, and made Li Qiaoqiao's head buzz. Then they blocked her mouth with a piece of rag, tied her hands behind her back, and threw her directly onto an ox cart they had pulled, and covered her with felt cloth. Wang Dajun picked up Li Qiaoqiao's bag, then took the 50 yuan handed over by one of the big men and said, "Brother, you promised me that you would take her to another city. You must not break your promise. If she escapes and comes back, I'll be finished." The big man said impatiently, "Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Wang Dajun watched the men pull the ox cart away, and then he opened Li Qiaoqiao's bag with satisfaction. When he saw that it was not a big deal, his legs went weak. "Oh my goodness!" Wang Dajun exclaimed, "Oh my goodness!" In addition to the 300, there are still 500 here. Fortunately, the big man didn't expect that Li Qiaoqiao still had money in her bag, otherwise he would have lost a lot. Wang Dajun hummed a little song and started to walk back contentedly. With these 800 yuan and the 50 yuan from selling Li Qiaoqiao, he spent 100 yuan to get a place to return to the city, and he could go back to the city to eat delicious food and drink spicy food. However, he had just taken a few steps when Xia Huanhuan suddenly appeared behind him through space, holding a stick in her hand, and knocked him out with one stick. Xia Huanhuan squatted down and directly took away all the 850 yuan in Wang Dajun's pocket. Li Qiaoqiao is really ruthless. Xia Huanhuan guessed that she might steal money, but she didn't expect her to steal so much. It is estimated that Lulan's savings over the years were all taken away by Li Qiaoqiao. But it's better this way, so that she doesn't have to find another way to get the rest back. Xia Huanhuan put the money into the space. She had saved more than 3,000 yuan from selling supplies before and after the new year. Adding this 850 yuan, it was more than 4,000 yuan. In this era of scarcity of supplies, the average monthly salary of workers was 20 to 30 yuan, and one work point in the countryside was equivalent to 1.5 cents. This was a huge sum of money. Looking at Wang Dajun, who was lying unconscious on the ground, Xia Huanhuan took out his belt, tied his hands tightly, and then entered the space, and teleported directly to the house in the county town through the space. She wrote an anonymous letter with a paper and pen prepared in the house, and went to the police station in the county town to report the case at night. When she arrived at the police station, Xia Huanhuan did not intend to show up, but stuffed the anonymous letter in, then knocked on the door, and without waiting for the people inside to come out, she entered the space and teleported directly back home. Although she didn't like Li Qiaoqiao, she hated human traffickers even more. After reporting the case in this way, as for whether Li Qiaoqiao could be rescued, it depended on her life. The next morning, Xia Huanhuan got up early as usual, squeezed fresh milk from the space and heated it up, then took out a few steamed dumplings with fresh meat, boiled white porridge, and served it with a dish of spicy cabbage and a dish of beef chili sauce, which was considered a meal. While eating, Xiaowen said, "Mom, the elm trees are starting to produce elm seeds. Today we have an appointment with Chaoyang Qiming and others to go get some elm seeds to eat." Xia Huanhuan was stunned, remembering that there were several elm trees next to her house. Now they are bearing tender green and round elm seeds like embroidery knots. Can this thing be eaten? However, she seemed to have seen on TV that people of this era would pick them and bake them into elm seed cakes, or mix them with flour and steam them directly in a pot without adding water, and make steamed dishes with garlic sauce. In the spring, when there is a shortage of food, this is the wisdom of the poor masses to fill their stomachs and survive. However, Xia Huanhuan frowned and did not agree, as their family was not short of food. The elm trees are so tall. What are you going to do? Climb the tree? What if you fall down? Xiaowen and Xiaowu shrank their heads in guilt when they heard this, and lowered their heads to eat their meals. When Beibei heard her mother forbid them from climbing trees, she said in a baby voice, "Mom, my brothers climbed yesterday." Before she could finish her words, Xiaowen blocked her sister's mouth with a steamed bun and said with a strong desire to survive, "Mom, we didn't climb the tree. Then let's go to dig Shepherd's purse today." Xia Huanhuan saw the reactions of the three kids and knew that it must be Xiaowen and Xiaowu who went to climb the tree. After her eyes wandered over the two people's faces for a few times and had enough deterrence, she said, "It's good that you didn't climb. If anyone dares to climb the tree and gets caught by me, I'll beat you up." After dinner, Xiaowen helped wash the dishes, and the three kids carried small bamboo baskets and small hoes and joined Huanhuan and Yingying from Zhou Qiuhe's family to go to the fields to pick wild vegetables. Xia Huanhuan always felt a little lazy and sleepy recently and had no appetite, and she didn't know what was going on. It happened that she had to go to the cowshed in the evening these 2 days, so she planned to ask her master to help her take her pulse and diagnose. Xia Huanhuan had already started to learn to take pulses, but she only listened to explanations and read medical books, and had no practical experience. Although she had taken the pulses of Shen Wanxue, her master, a few children, and herself, except for Shen Wanxue, everyone had normal pulses. She had never seen the pulses mentioned in the specific medical skills, so she naturally couldn't tell them apart. In the past few days of farm work, she was assigned to plant corn, which was also about half an acre of land. She had to use A to turn the ground, then sprinkle corn seeds, and then cover the seeds with soil. It had just rained, and the ground was still wet, so there was no need to water it separately. This job was not easy, but when Xia Huanhuan was tired, she would get some spiritual spring water from the space to drink. After drinking the spiritual spring water, her body would be strengthened to a certain extent in a short period of time, and she would do farm work much faster. In the late afternoon, she finished her part of the farm work and walked home with her on her back. During the spring plowing period, each family was required to do the minimum work points during the busiest half of the month. After that, they could stop working if they wanted to, or work more if they wanted to. There was no requirement for more. Xia Huanhuan naturally only wanted the minimum work points. Therefore, after finishing the work of planting corn today, she planned to rest for a few days and not collect work points. Seeing her walking home, the women who were still working in the fields were almost envious. Look at other people's wives. They only do 8 work points of work, and they only get paid every few days. They live a happy life. Yeah, not like us, who have to work hard every day for more than 10 work points, and the husband of this family still thinks I'm lazy.
Come on.
You envy her? If your man is as incompetent as hers, I wonder if you'd still envy him. That's true, haha. Hey, why did I hear that Li Zhan is not a good man? It seems to be a rumor? Is it true? Where did you hear it? My husband said it. Don't their men like to talk dirty while working? A foul-mouthed guy laughed at Li Zhan in front of the third brother. In fact, it has been said in the past, and the third brother of the Li family has heard it many times, but he always turned his head and ignored it. I don't know what happened this time. The third brother of the Li family directly beat up the foul-mouthed guy. My husband was also there at the time and saw it with his own eyes. Li Jia also said that his brother told him personally that he was not injured in that area and was fine. He also said that if he heard anyone talking about Li Zhan again, he would beat them up. TSK. Li Lao Sen said his brother is fine, so he is fine? If he is, show us the evidence. Didn't Li Lao Si come back for a few days for the new year? Let's see if there is any movement in his wife's belly. Someone didn't believe it and said sarcastically. When the other women heard this, they laughed and said, "That's true." One of them sneered more sarcastically. However, it depends not only on whether she is pregnant, but also on the attitude of the Li family towards her. If she is really pregnant, it may not be Li Laoxi's child, right? Maybe she is having an affair with a man outside. Before she finished speaking, Aunt Wu, who was passing by after work, heard her and interrupted her with a snarl. Sun Xiaohua, has your conscience been eaten by a dog for speaking so harshly? Didn't your family eat the 2 wild boars that Li Laosi and his wife killed before the new year? How can you not be ashamed to ruin their reputation like this? Humph. Everyone knows that before you got married, Lulan wanted to marry you as the 4th daughter-in-law, and the betrothal money was sent to your family, right? As a result, when those rumors about Li Zhan came out, you immediately forced your parents to return the betrothal money. What? Now that you see that Li Zhan dotes on his wife to the sky, and his failure in that aspect may be a misunderstanding, you are unbalanced?
Ha.
You must be unbalanced. Look at the kind of man you have found. In this busy time, instead of working to earn work points, he goes to play cards and gamble with the village scoundrels. I'm waiting to see how much food you get after the summer harvest, and whether you will starve. And does your man have guts? If he does, how come you haven't gotten pregnant for almost a year after marrying here? Sun Xiaohua, who was scolded, felt ashamed and angry. She put down her and ran to the card room to make trouble with her man. Aunt Wu glared at the remaining women present and scolded. You haven't even finished your work yet you still have the nerve to gossip about others. You are so useless. After that, she left. The women waited until she was far away before they dared to speak in a low voice. She's gone now. You can't hear me anymore? Oh my God. I dare not speak when I see Aunt Wu. I'm afraid she will turn me upside down. If you're fine, why are you afraid of what she will say? Someone laughed.
Hey.
Am I afraid of you? Then why were you so quiet just now? She also said that we gossip. She is the most gossipy in the whole village. That's right. But why did she get off work so early? Don't you know? I heard that the matchmaker is coming to the house to find a wife for her youngest son. Xia Huanhuan returned home, and the 3 kids also came back with bamboo baskets on their backs. In addition to Shepherd's purse, a lot of porcelain was also picked. Xia Huanhuan took out some meat filling from the space, chopped it with Shepherd's purse to make filling, mixed it with white flour and sweet potato flour to make dough, rolled it into dumpling skins to make dumplings. Although Shepherd's purse is the most common and easiest to dig wild vegetables, it is not available in Xia Huanhuan's space. Therefore, it is very rare. After it is cooked, dip it in vinegar and take a bite. It is fragrant and has the smell of spring fields. Porcelain is also common. Use fresh porcelain to blanch in boiling water. Then take it out, wash it several times with clean water, put it in a plate, and mix it with sesame oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, mashed garlic, etc. Another way to eat it is to wash it, wrap it in flour, steam it in a pot, and then mash it with garlic juice and eat it with it. This time Xia Huanhuan made steamed dishes directly, mashed garlic juice, and seasoned the garlic juice with sesame oil and salt. In the evening, there are shepherd's purse dumplings and porcelain steamed dishes. Xia Huanhuan put them in bowls and went to the cowshed at night. Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi were still awake, waiting for her to come. During the spring plowing, the villagers are busy, and the cowshed is even busier. The cattle have to plow the land, and the fodder and water for feeding the cattle are much more than in winter, and there is also the work of drying cow dung. In addition, he was also assigned a lot of hard work in the fields. The only thing that was better than before was that because Xia Huanhuan would send food, meat, and medicinal materials from time to time, they could still hold on physically. Shen Wanxue's eye disease has mostly healed, but her vision is still blurry and will need to be treated for a while. The two were full of praise for Xia Huanhuan's craftsmanship. After eating dumplings and steamed vegetables, Xia Huanhuan asked some questions that she didn't understand after reading the medical books in the past few days, and then said a little embarrassedly, "Master, can you help me take my pulse? I've been feeling a little tired these days." I didn't understand it even after trying it for a while. Yang Qiushi naturally agreed immediately after hearing this, but after thinking about it for a while, he couldn't help but look at Xia Huanhuan with a strange look on his face. After holding it again, he let go of Xia Huanhuan's hand. Seeing that his expression was wrong, Xia Huanhuan felt a little uneasy. "Master, is there any problem?" Yang Qiushi raised his eyes and glanced at Xia Huanhuan quickly, then at Shen Wanxue, and then said, "No. It's nothing, it's just..." I may be busy with farm work recently, and I'm tired. Don't do any more farm work these days, and don't go into the mountains. I'll just stay at home for a few days. Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly, she said. I always feel that the master seems to have something unsaid and hesitates to speak. However, after being in contact with him for these days, she also knew that Yang Qiushi was a person who would definitely not harm her. I guess I was tired from doing farm work too hard. Thinking of this, Xia Huanhuan nodded and said with a smile, Thank you, master. I listened to the master and didn't do farm work or go into the mountains these days. I just pulled some cloth at home to make spring and summer clothes for a few kids. After chatting for a while, Xia Huanhuan went back. Yang Qiushi did not go back to his room immediately like before. Instead, he waited until Xia Huanhuan had gone far before looking at Shen Wanxue and said in a very contradictory manner, Sister Shen, I have something to discuss with you. Shen Wanxue also saw Yang Qiushi's hesitation and smiled and said, Old Yang, are you feeling uneasy because you lied to Huanhuan? Yang Qiushi looked at Shen Wanxue in shock, and immediately she smiled bitterly and said, Is it so obvious? Shen Wanxue smiled and said, Huanhuan, that girl Bingxue is smart. I'm afraid she has already seen it. However, she still chose to believe her master's diagnosis. It must be because I trust you, Lao Yang. I guess you have difficulties that you can't tell. Yang Qiushi sighed and said, People said in the past that women are as careful as hair, but I can't help but see it today. You? Yang Qiushi lowered his voice and continued, Huanhuan's pulse is probably Shimai. Shen Wanxue was stunned for a moment. Shimai? You mean Huanhuan is pregnant? Yang Qiushi nodded. It's been more than a month, and judging from the pulse, I'm afraid it's not a single pregnancy. I guess it's either twins or triplet. When Shen Wanxue heard this, she stood up from the stool anxiously. Twins, or maybe triples. Third child? Lao Yang, you are so confused. Why didn't you tell her about such a big thing just now? It's just over a month into the pregnancy, which is the most dangerous time. If you're not careful, you could have a miscarriage. What's more, she is not pregnant with a single child. If there is a baby with 3 long and 2 short babies, I'm afraid her body will be damaged. Yang Qiushi couldn't help but regret when Shen Wanxue said this. At that time, I suddenly thought of the rumors about her husband in the village. I was afraid that if I told the truth directly, she would be embarrassed in front of us, so I wanted to discuss it with you privately first and then tell her. When Shen Wanxue thought about it, Yang Qiushi's worries were justified. Although the Kaoshi didn't have much contact with the villagers, the news about Huanhuan's husband Li Zhan's incompetence spread throughout the commune, and no one evaded it. Shen Wanxue was sometimes assigned a place to do farm work. Right next to the villagers, I also heard such and other gossips from a distance, and this incident was one of them. If Huanhuan's husband can't do it, then whose child is Huanhuan pregnant with? If this was really revealed to Yang Qiushi in person, wouldn't it make her embarrassed? Shen Wanxue hesitated for a moment, then put on her coat and put a broken straw hat on her head, saying, I'd better go to the village and tell Huanhuan. I believe that girl Huanhuan. And no matter what the truth is, it's not as important as Huanhuan's physical safety. Taking a step back, even if the child in Huanhuan's belly is not her husband's, so what? During this period, it was Xia Huanhuan who selflessly gave her medicines, food, and clothes, and he was not her husband. Why should she side with him? When Yang Qiushi heard this, he felt even more regretful. He walked over to stop her and said, Sister Shen, you are right. I think too much. Your eye disease is not cured yet. If you meet the villagers, you may still be suspected. I was hesitant to say it just now, so I should go and make this trip. After hearing this, Shen Wanxue nodded and agreed. Yang Qiushi didn't go out for long before he came back and said with some regret, I'm afraid I can't talk tonight. There is a commotion in the village and the educated youth spot. I heard that an educated youth kidnapped a girl in the village and eloped. This will probably happen tomorrow. There were people patrolling until the morning. We can only wait until tomorrow. I just told Huanhuan to get more rest, and she should be able to do it tomorrow. It turns out that Wang Dajuan was not seen at the Jiqing Point all day. Everyone felt that something was wrong. They were afraid that he had escaped and would implicate them, so they quickly asked the captain to report to the commune. On the other hand, Lulan hadn't seen Li Qiaoqiao all day, so she thought she was still angry with him, so she didn't care, thinking that she would be back by the evening. She worked in the fields for a whole day. Li Qiaoqiao was not here, so she had to do her share. She worked until the sun went down. She didn't finish it, so she went back angrily, thinking about waiting. When Li Qiaoqiao comes back, she must be scolded. When I got home, the house was still dark, the lights were not lit, and the meal was not cooked. Lulan was so angry. She had no choice but to suppress her anger and cook. While waiting, she thought about it. She really couldn't survive this day. The spring plowing had just started, and she was already so tired that her back ached. Xiaoman will have to harvest wheat before and after this. After harvesting wheat, it will be time for autumn planting, and there will also be autumn harvest. Otherwise, just give the second son's family 5 yuan a month and not split up with them. Lulan thought about it, so she went to take out the money she had saved and planned to do some calculations before making a decision. Only then did she realize that all the 800 yuan she had saved was gone. Lulan fainted on the spot and fell to the ground with a clang. After a while, he woke up again, his heart moved, and he quickly went to look through Li Qiaoqiao's clothes. Where was the shadow? Lulan's face was ashen, and she suddenly sat down on the ground and started crying loudly, which alarmed the second son's family in the courtyard. However, Li Chang was pulled by Wang Guixiang and did not come to pay attention to her. Lulan cried for a long time before she got up and staggered to the commune to complain that her money had been stolen and that Li Qiaoqiao had disappeared. The village lost 2 big people at once, but it didn't take the whole village to pay attention. Have you been searching all night? Xia Huanhuan naturally heard these news, but she didn't care about Lulan Li Qiaoqiao's follow-up matters. In addition, after she came back, for some reason, in addition to being tired and sleepy, she also had some symptoms of nausea and vomiting. I went to bed early. Early the next morning, rumors spread throughout Qingshui village that the educated youth Wang Dajuan had eloped with Li Qiaoqiao, and that Li Qiaoqiao had stolen all her mother's savings. Lulan directly became the laughingstock of Qingshui village. You deserve it. After receiving the allowance for your 4th son for so many years, you ended up marrying your 4th son a wife who didn't even have a living room. It's so stingy to the extreme. Now it's okay, your shameless daughter took the blame. I also heard that when a new daughter-in-law came in, the bedding in the new house that night was not new, but was borrowed from Wang Guixiang. Wang Guixiang kept sleeping on each one to make sure it was dirty. I have to return it as soon as possible. I have never seen such a stingy mother-in-law.
No.
Li Zhan's daughter-in-law is well-behaved and didn't make any fuss with her. She just went to the commune to separate the family. And even if the family was separated, Li Zhan didn't get the 10 years allowance before getting married. She didn't even ask for it. She was almost clean and out of the house. If it were me, I wouldn't slap her loudly and make trouble with her so that everyone in the village and the commune would know how mean and stingy she is. If I take my husband's allowance and separate from her, my surname will no longer be Wang. Alas. Isn't she just too stingy, and this is what happened before liberation? You deserve it. That little Li Qiaoqiao took advantage of her hard work and ran away with an educated youth to have a happy life. Xia Huanhuan woke up the next morning and was still lazy. I took meat buns, milk and porridge from the space for breakfast. She still felt a little nauseous and didn't eat much. After eating and sleeping for a while, I felt better. At this time, Secretary Zhao's daughter-in-law Wu Xiaoyan came over and asked her to go to town to register the family's little boy in a school. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then remembered that she had made an appointment with Wu Xiaoran before. Chaoyang and her family is 1 year older than Xiaowen. Qiming and Xiaowen are the same age and both want to go to school. This matter couldn't be delayed. It happened to be that we had to go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy some spring and summer clothes as a cover. Xia Huanhuan packed up and went to town with her. Yang Qiushi and Shen Wanxue saw them from a distance at the end of the village. They originally wanted to tell her that she was pregnant, but they saw that there were people around her and they were too anxious to talk. Moreover, it was always unsafe in broad daylight. I can only wait patiently for the evening. Unexpectedly, Xia Huanhuan had just returned from town and was called by Secretary Zhao before he even entered the house. Xia Huanhuan originally thought that Secretary Zhao might be calling her because he wanted to ask her about Lu Lan or Li Qiao, so she made up her mind that no matter how she asked, she would not get the answer. As a result, when Secretary Zhao saw her, he pointed at two young men in military uniforms and said, "Daughter-in-law of the Li family, these are two comrades from the army. They said they were sent by Li Zhan to take you to the army." He turned to the two comrades and said, "Two little comrades, this is Li Zhan's wife, her name is Xia Huanhuan." When the two saw Xia Huanhuan, their eyes widened in shock at first, and then their cheeks turned red. They gave Xia Huanhuan a quick salute and shouted in unison, "Hello, sister-in-law." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, looking at the two young comrades suspiciously. Li Zhan left home and returned to the team after the new year. Apart from the telegram he sent at the beginning and the remittance slip he sent back, there has been no news from him in more than a month. However, in the last telegram, he also mentioned that he had to carry out a secret mission and it would be inconvenient for him to write again in the short term, so Xia Huanhuan didn't pay much attention to it, thinking that he would probably write after the mission was over. Unexpectedly, instead of receiving the letter, someone from the army came directly. Thinking of this, Xia Huanhuan's heart sank suddenly, and she asked in a trembling voice, "Pick me up? What happened to Li Zhan? Is he injured?" The last time his comrade in arms by Zihan drove a jeep to pick her up, wasn't it because Li Zhan was seriously injured? The two comrades shook their heads quickly, and one of them smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, don't worry. Our battalion commander." "No, our regiment commander is fine. He just sent us here to pick you up." Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly. "Why are you picking me up for no reason?" The two comrades quickly looked at each other, and then said with some guilt, "Sister-in-law, I don't know. The regiment commander only asked us to follow orders, but didn't tell us the reason." Secretary Zhao on the side said, "Li's wife, the troops are here to pick you up. There must be something going on. It may be confidential and inconvenient to tell. You should go over quickly. I have already issued you a letter of introduction. The comrades have already bought the train ticket from the county to the army tonight. You should go back and pack up and set off, otherwise you will miss the train." Xia Huanhuan had to go back and prepare. The family had food, bacon, vegetables, and the like. She had just bought some at the supply and marketing cooperative today and took some more from the space to supplement, which was enough for a month. Then, she went to Xia village and asked Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru to live in her house directly so that they could take care of the three kids for a while she was away. Xiaowen had already registered for the town's primary school, and school would start in 2 days. She asked Zhou Qiuhua for this. It happened that she went to work as usual most of the time, except for taking leave from the supply and marketing cooperative when the farm work was particularly heavy. And their family member Huan Huan also had to go to school, so she asked her to pick up Xiaowen as well. The cowshed was still it was daytime, so she couldn't tell them. But fortunately, the food and medicine she had brought back should be enough for 10 days or half a month, so she didn't go to tell them. She also told the 3 kids to listen to their grandparents. Xiaowen should go to school well and not skip classes. Xiaowu and Beibei should not be naughty, climb trees or go to the river to play. She simply prepared a few sets of clothes to change and took out a dozen big meat buns from the space as dry food on the road and set off with the 2 people who came to pick her up. When they arrived in the town, they took a bullock cart to the county. On the way, she heard the 2 people introduce themselves. One was called Lu Xiongdong, and the other was called Wei Bin. They were both soldiers under Li Zhan. She had never asked before, but now she knew that Li Zhan was actually the head of the regiment. "Yes, sister-in-law. I was promoted just after the mission was completed." Lu Xiongdong straightened his back and answered seriously. Wei Bin poked him and whispered, "Don't be so serious. Look, you scared your sister-in-law." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but smile. Lu Xiongdong glanced at Xia Huanhuan, his face turned red again, and he coughed awkwardly. Xia Huanhuan held back her laughter and asked, I heard from Li Zhan that your missions are relatively confidential. Is it really okay for me to go there? Wei Bin smiled and said, Sister-in-law, don't worry. We have reported this to our superiors. This mission has just ended, and there is a 10-day rest period, so it won't be a problem for you to go there. Xia Huanhuan was relieved after hearing this. The county railway station sent someone to wait for them. When they saw the three of them arrived, they said with some embarrassment, I'm sorry, comrades. We are a passing station here, so we have only 2 sleeper berths, and 1 is a hard seat ticket. Lu Xiangdong heard it and immediately said, It's okay. We are very grateful for the 2 sleeper berths. Thank you for your help in the adjustment. He turned to Wei Bin and said, You and sister-in-law take the sleeper berth, and I'll go to the hard seat car. Wei Bin refused to agree and said, It has to be me if we want a hard seat ticket. Have you forgotten that your position is higher than mine? Xia Huanhuan felt embarrassed. These 2 berths would definitely be given priority to soldiers. If she bought the ticket herself, it would probably be a hard seat ticket. The 2 berths prepared by the station should be for you, otherwise the hard seat ticket will still be mine. Lu Xiangdong and Wei Bin immediately said in unison, No. Xia Huanhuan was shocked. Lu Xiangdong said seriously, Sister-in-law, we came to pick you up this time to protect you on the road and not let you suffer any grievances. Even if both of us have standing tickets, you have to sleep in this berth. Finally, it was decided that Xia Huanhuan would sleep in a sleeper berth, while LV Xiangdong and Wei Bin would take turns sleeping in the sleeper berth or hard seat, switching shifts every few hours. When the train started, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. Both sleeper berths were for the lower berth, which saved them from climbing up and down. Xia Huanhuan gave each of them 2 steamed buns and ate one herself. She drank some hot water, chatted for a while, and then fell asleep. The next day, Xia Huanhuan slept until almost 8 or 9 o'clock. When she got up, she saw that LV Xiangdong and Wei Bin were sitting upright on the opposite berth, waiting for her to wake up. She felt a little embarrassed. Before she crossed over, she was also a night owl, and it was normal for her to sleep until noon. But after crossing over, there was nothing to do at night, so she went to bed early. So she woke up at 5 or 6 o'clock every morning, stayed in bed for a while, and got up at around 7 o'clock. It can be said that her daily routine is extremely healthy. My body has been really strange these days. Didn't I go to bed late last night? Why are you so sleepy? When the 2 saw Xia Huanhuan wake up, they smiled and said, Sister-in-law, let's go to the dining car to get some porridge and steamed buns. You can eat something first. We will probably arrive at the station around 11 o'clock. The food sold on the train also requires food stamps, and the price seems to be a little more expensive than outside. However, at this time, even if you take a long-distance train, most people still bring their own dry food, cornmeal steamed buns with pickles, and so on. Xia Huanhuan took a look and saw the common cornmeal sweet potato porridge and white flour and sweet potato flour steamed buns, and a small dish of fermented bean curd. It is not as good as the things in her space, but in this era, it is definitely of upper middle standard. She was also hungry, so she didn't hesitate to take the steamed buns and drink porridge with fermented bean curd. After a while, she devoured breakfast like a whirlwind. The 2 comrades were stunned. Their sister-in-law has a good appetite. After eating, Xia Huanhuan saw the 2 people staring at her with steamed buns in their hands, and her face turned red all of a sudden. This is so embarrassing. What happened to her recently? Felt extra hungry this morning, so she didn't pay attention to her image for a while. Well, I've been getting hungry a lot lately. Hee. Xia Huanhuan blushed and tried to save her image. The 2 of them reacted and said quickly, Sister-in-law, it's okay. We're also very hungry. We just eat a little slowly. As they said that, they stuffed the steamed buns into their mouths in a hurry and hurried to drink the porridge, which made Xia Huanhuan even more embarrassed. You guys, eat slowly. The train was delayed for about an hour and arrived at the station after 12 o'clock. A jeep carrying the troops was already waiting there. Lu Xiangdong and Wei Bin saluted the driver, who came to pick them up, and then got on the car with Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan looked out the window. This was no longer the rural scene where Qingshui village was located. There were no irregularly shaped pieces of land. Instead, there was a vast and wild expanse. There were several mountains standing in the distance. The foot of the mountain was lush and green with cold-resistant evergreen pine trees, while the top of the mountain was still covered with snow. A ribbon-like river meandered across the land like a white snake, and there were several small villages scattered along the river. The grass had not yet turned green, but was still withered and yellow, but one could still imagine how beautiful it would be in the summer. A beautiful scene. The jeep first drove along a relatively flat road for a while, and then turned into a more remote and uninhabited area, where there was basically no road. The bumps became more severe, and Xia Huanhuan began to feel like vomiting again, but she still tried her best to hold it in. After walking for more than 2 hours, they finally arrived at the destination. In front of them was a military camp of a medium size, with fixed houses and temporary tents. The jeep driver took out the pass and showed it to the sentry on duty. The sentry didn't let anyone get off the car, but saluted and let him pass. Xia Huanhuan thought that she would be able to see Li Zhan after getting off the car, but she was greeted by a female officer in her 30s, wearing a military uniform, who looked extremely cool and capable. Lu Xiongdong introduced in a low voice. "Sister-in-law, this is the staff officer stationed here, and also the sister-in-law of our division commander. Her name is Jiang Wan. We all call her Sister Jiang, or call her by her position. You can also call her Sister Jiang." Xia Huanhuan was a little confused now. Didn't Li Zhan ask someone to pick her up? Why didn't Li Zhan show up, but why did the commander's sister-in-law come to pick her up? Jiang Wan saw Xia Huanhuan and said with a smile, "Is this Li Zhan's wife?" It's true that hearing about her is not as good as meeting her in person. She is much prettier than they say. Li Zhan is really lucky to have such a beautiful wife. Xia Huanhuan was embarrassed by the praise. Her face turned red and she called softly, "Jiang, Sister Jiang." Jiang Wan smiled and said, "It seems that they have told you about me. My name is Jiang Wan. I'm the staff officer here, and also Li Zhan's sister-in-law. Li Zhan is training outside now, and will not be back until the evening. You can come to my room and sit down first." Having said that, without allowing Xia Huanhuan to refuse, she took her hand and walked towards one of the brick houses in a row. After sitting for a while, Jiang Wan looked Xia Huanhuan up and down and said with a smile, "Your figure is quite similar to mine when I was young. By the way, I have a new set of clothes here. They're the casual clothes I bought in Beijing before. Unfortunately, I have been in the army and have no chance to wear them. I will give them to you to try." Xia Huanhuan stood up to refuse, but Jiang Wan had already taken out the clothes vigorously. It was a quilted jacket with a slanted collar and a rare quilted skirt underneath. The whole set was made of bright red brocade. It looked very festive at first glance, and I'm afraid it was not cheap. Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly. In this era, most clothes were gray, white, navy blue, and green. Red was only worn on very special occasions. Whose casual clothes would be made in bright red? Besides, they just met for the first time. Why would they give her clothes for no reason? Therefore, when Jiang Wan asked her to try it on, Xia Huanhuan refused. "Sister Jiang, this is too expensive. I don't want to accept it without any merit. By the way, if Li Zhan hasn't come back, I'll go to his place and wait for him first." At this time, there were a few chi-chi laughs from outside the door, and then 2 female soldiers came in and said with a smile, "Sister, I think the truth has been revealed. Let's stop hiding it and speak out." Li Zhan was dragging a deer weighing more than 100 pounds down the mountain and saw a jeep entering the base from a distance. He didn't care, thinking that Fu Beifa had gone out for something and came back. When he arrived at the door, he saluted the sentry, went in, and dragged the deer straight to the cafeteria. Bai Zihan had been paying attention to the gate of the camp. When he saw Li Zhan coming back, he looked at his watch and muttered, "He's back on time," and hurried to greet him. "Li Zhan, you are too incredible. People come back from 2 days and 1 night of field training in the mountains, and they are all dusty and exhausted. You, on the other hand, still have the energy to kill the deer?" Li Zhan glared at him coldly. Bai Zihan smiled guiltily and said, "Don't glare at me. Who told you to make our division commander unhappy? He punished you, but didn't punish me. By the way, Give me the deer. I'll carry it. You take a break, go to the bathhouse to take a shower, and change clothes. As he said that, he quickly took over Li Zhan's hand and carried the deer on his back. Li Zhan didn't stop him. He threw the deer to Bai Zihan and turned to walk towards his tent. When Bai Zihan saw it, he got anxious. Hey, where are you going? Aren't you going to the bathhouse to take a shower? Li Zhan said without turning his head. I'm going to get some clean clothes. Bai Zihan was stunned for a moment, and just as he was about to open his mouth to stop him, 2 young soldiers jumped out and stopped Li Zhan, saying, Captain, Commander, just go directly. We'll help you get some clean clothes. Li Zhan. He looked back at Bai Zihan, then glanced at the 2 people who stopped him, and asked, What the Hades are you guys doing? Bai Zihan laughed dryly. How dare we do anything?
Haha.
One of the soldiers thought faster and said, Boss, we are just afraid that you will be punished by the division commander and then punish us, so we will flatter him first. Li Zhan couldn't help but kicked him. Get out. Am I the kind of person who takes revenge on others? However, since someone was helping to carry it, he acquiesced. He had entered the mountain yesterday and slept outdoors on the mountain at night. Now that he had come down, not only was he smelly, but also because he had carried a deer back with a lot of deer blood on his body. He had long wanted to wash it off quickly. After soaking in the bathhouse for a while, Li Zhan came out and changed into the spare clothes that the 2 soldiers had brought him. It would not have been a big deal to change into one piece of clothes, but what these 2 guys brought was actually his newly issued military uniform, and the shoulder straps were also new at the regimental commander level. Li Zhan couldn't help but frown. If he had known, he wouldn't have asked them to help carry it. He had an old military uniform, and he could wear it as long as he replaced the shoulder straps with new ones. He planned to put this set aside for the time being and wear it the next time he went home to visit his family. When Huan married him, he was absent and didn't rush back until midnight. His family didn't even have a proper wedding banquet. It was really unfair to her. In rural areas, it is a great shame for a bride to not have a wedding banquet. What's more, the rumors about him being incompetent have been circulating for so long, and his wife is under double pressure. She is thankful that she didn't divorce him during the new year. Therefore, he thought about taking advantage of this 10-day rest, asking for 2 more days off, and holding a wedding for her. Yesterday morning, he ran to Fu Beifa to ask for leave just for this, and was scolded by Fu Beifa for being sentimental. You are useless. You just got promoted to the head of the regiment, and you are asking for leave so frequently. How can you set an example for your soldiers? Li Zhan was not convinced, and said a few words to him. Then he was punished by Fu Beifa to go to the mountains for field training. Li Zhan sighed quietly as he looked at the new military uniform. He planned to ask for leave again in a while. Anyway, he would be punished. At most, he would stay in the mountains for 2 more nights. He would ask for leave until Fu Erge agreed. Li Zhan had to change into it quickly. He planned to change into the old one when he returned to the tent. He must not let it get dirty. As a result, as soon as he went out, he was blocked by Bai Zihan, Lu Xiangdong, Wei Bin, and other soldiers. Head, where are you going? Wei Bin asked with a smile. Li Zhan frowned, thinking that they were very strange today. Of course, I'm going back to the tent.
And?
He asked in a deep voice. Aren't you training? Nothing to do? Why are you all gathered outside the bathhouse? Did he do something bad? Bai Zihan smiled meaningfully at Li Zhan, then suddenly stood at attention and saluted, and said seriously, Report to the commander. The bride is ready. Please go to pick her up now. After saying that, he blinked his eyes and smiled. Sister Jiang said that if you are late and make the bride wait for a long time, she will not let the bride go out. Li Zhan was stunned. What bride? What's the matter? What the Hades are you doing? When Sister Jiang introduced the female soldiers of the resident art troupe to her 2 days ago, didn't he make it clear that he was married? Where did he get a bride? Lu Xiangdong whispered, Commander, it's my sister-in-law. Wei Bin and I set out yesterday to pick her up. Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, and then his brain exploded with a bang. He stared at Lu Xiangdong with wide eyes. You mean?
Huan.
My wife is here. Bai Zihan smiled and said, You should go quickly. If Sister Jiang really doesn't let your sister-in-law go out later, you will be in trouble. Li Zhan was surrounded by Zihan and others and was heading towards Jiang Wan's residence. Fu Beifa stood by the window and watched from a distance. He called a guard over and said, "Drive the jeep over and just go around the camp twice to go through the motions." The guard looked at Fu Beifa with some embarrassment and said, Division Commander, Staff Officer Jiang has already arranged this matter. He even asked us to cut out double happiness characters and stick them on the car windows." When Fu Beifa heard this, he turned around with a big swing to look at his guard, then couldn't help but laugh and muttered, "Hey, this woman really knows how to act on her own." Li Zhan was escorted to Jiang Wan's residence, feeling a bit unreal as if he was dreaming. His wife. Is she really here? Waiting for him to marry her? Jiang Wan and several female soldiers blocked the door, deliberately making things difficult for Li Zhan to come in to pick her up. "You haven't prepared the red envelope? That's troublesome. We won't let you go without the red envelope." Without the red envelope, it looks like Captain Li will have to stay alone in the bridal chamber today. Li Zhan turned around and glared at Bai Zihan fiercely. Wasn't it these rascals who deliberately kept it from him and made him prepare nothing? Bai Zihan, with a strong desire to survive, quickly took out the red envelopes from his pocket. "Red envelopes are here. These are big red envelopes. Here, one for each person," he said as he handed out the red envelopes with a bitter heart. These were all red envelopes that he paid out of his own pocket, as he had lost all his allowance for this month. After receiving the red envelopes, the female soldiers still refused to let him go. One of them, who was already married, smiled and said, "Red envelopes alone are not enough. We are in the army, so of course we have to have some characteristics. I think the groom should do 100 push-ups first, otherwise the bride will be tired at night." When this was said, everyone laughed and started to make a fuss. The groom, the bride in the room, and several unmarried female soldiers blushed. At this time, Jiang Wan came out and said with a smile, "Hey, you guys have made enough noise. The bride and groom will blame us soon. Li Zhan, just do 10 push-ups for your sake." Li Zhan smiled with a red face, and without hesitation, he climbed down immediately and did 10 one-handed push-ups with neat, powerful, and beautiful movements. The men present couldn't help cursing in their hearts. Is this still a human being? He stayed in the mountains for 2 days and 1 night, killed a deer, and carried the deer all the way back to the camp from the mountain. And now he still has the strength to do push-ups? And one-handed ones? Is this going to kill them? After doing 10, Li Zhan stood up neatly, looked at Jiang Wan and grinned. "Sister Jiang, you must keep your word." Jiang Wan glanced at him, smiled, and pulled a few female soldiers out of the way. Li Zhan took 2 steps at a time and walked into the house. He saw that it was his wife Xia Huan, sitting shyly by the bed, waiting for him.
Jianwan.
Li Zhan called softly, his eyes filled with affection and admiration. Xia Huan was wearing a bright red wedding dress, her hair was carefully, and a red velvet flower was tied on the side. Her already beautiful face was lightly powdered, and her lips were red, making her look even more radiant than usual. Xia Huan's face was hot, her head was dizzy, and she felt something was not real. Thinking back to when she was still in Qingshui village yesterday, wondering when Li Zhan would finish his mission and when he would be able to come back. Now, she was wearing a bright red wedding dress, waiting for him to pick her up, while Li Zhan was wearing a brand new military uniform, standing handsomely in front of her. She looked up at Li Zhan and felt embarrassed for some reason. She didn't respond and just looked away, while she couldn't help cursing herself in her heart. "Xia Huan, you have traveled through time and space, and you have seen all kinds of big scenes. Why are you so scared now?" "Unfortunately, despite being scolded, I still have to be a coward." After holding it in for a long time, Xia Huan said, "Well, long time no see. Li Zhen." Xia Huan was so embarrassed that she wanted to bite her tongue off. Why not say something else? Long time no see? There was a cheer from outside. "The wedding car is here. The bride and groom. Stop wasting time and come out quickly. Let's see if the bride is pretty." Xia Huan. In modern terms, This is a large-scale social death scene for social phobia. What should I do? Can I not go out? Li Zhan couldn't help but laugh and curse in a low voice. A bunch of rascals. Then, he looked at Xia Huanhuan affectionately and said softly, "They are urging you go out." Xia Huanhuan swallowed nervously, then whispered, "Oh."
Oh.
She said, standing up nervously. As a result, because I was too nervous, I didn't change my posture while sitting. Now, when I stood up suddenly, my feet were numb, and I couldn't stand steadily. I suddenly leaned to one side.
Ah.
Li Zhan was startled, and quickly stretched out his arms, pulled the person into his arms and hugged him tightly, while whispering with concern, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Xia Huanhuan. She felt that she could be a little more socially dead, and then she could just give up.
I'm fine.
"Let me go, I'll walk by myself," Xia Huanhuan answered while pushing Li Zhan away. If he was helped out, wouldn't his comrades laugh to death? Although Li Zhan was reluctant to let go, seeing that Xia Huanhuan insisted, he didn't want to hold on too long, so he let go. Xia Huanhuan took another step confidently.
Ah.
"When it comes to numb feet, I don't give you any face at all." Li Zhan once again pulled her into his arms and hugged her tightly. He sighed and said, "Why are you trying to be brave in front of your man?" Xia Huanhuan blushed to her ears and gritted her teeth and said, "My feet are just a little numb after sitting for too long."
You
wait a moment." The noise outside became louder, and they even shouted slogans. "Sister-in-law! Sister-in-law! Sister-in-law! Xia Huanhuan!" Li Zhan made a tisk sound, and without asking Xia Huanhuan's opinion, he bent down and picked Xia Huanhuan up sideways.
Ah.
Xia Huanhuan was so frightened that her face turned pale, and she quickly clung to Li Zhan's broad shoulders with both hands. When she realized that she was being shamefully carried like a princess, Xia Huanhuan started to struggle in anger and shame. You put me down. I can walk by myself." Li Zhan glanced at her coldly and said with a smile, "Don't move. It's not like I didn't give you a chance to walk by yourself. It's just that your feet are numb and you can't walk." Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan gritted her teeth. "I told you to wait for me for a while." Li Zhan held her and walked towards the door, laughing softly. "Wait? Do you believe that if we wait 10 more seconds, these wolf cubs will be able to flip the roof over?" As they were talking, they had already reached the door. Xia Huanhuan was both ashamed and angry, but unable to resist, so she had to bury her face in Li Zhan's arms, not daring to look at anyone. The female soldier at the door had picked wild flower petals from somewhere, as well as tiny red and gold sequins, and scattered them all over the two men's bodies and heads. Li Zhan knew that she was shy, so he didn't delay. With the crowd cheering and supporting him, he carried her towards the wedding car. Xia Huanhuan finally looked around secretly and saw that those who were surrounding her were all wearing military uniforms. They were all tall and strong, and had a very heroic spirit. When Li Zhan carried her to the place where they were going, there were more than a dozen horses with saddles ready waiting for them. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, and then she had a bad feeling in her heart. The wedding car they were talking about, couldn't it be the horse in front of them?
Li Zhan.
Xia Huanhuan nervously grasped the clothes on Li Zhan's chest. Is it necessary to make this wedding so thrilling? She can't ride a horse. Li Zhan didn't stop at all. He lowered his head and smiled softly. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Having said that, without giving Xia Huanhuan a chance to protest, he put her directly on the saddle of one of the white horses. Xia Huanhuan. Her legs were not only numb, but also weak. Although I have seen many scenes of galloping horses in TV dramas and novels, and I have also imagined countless times in my heart that I could gallop on a horse. But she really faced it. This crotch. Sitting under her was a real horse that was more than 1 meter tall. If it twisted its body, she would sway with it and was in danger of being thrown to the ground at any minute. This didn't even give her any psychological preparation. Now she could only hold on to the saddle tightly with both hands, not daring to move at all, for fear of being thrown off the horse. At this time, Li Zhan held the saddle, stepped on the horse stirrup, and mounted the horse gracefully. Then he put his big hands around her waist and said with a smile, "Didn't I say I'm here? Don't worry, I'll ride slowly, and I won't fall." What could Xia Huanhuan say? She couldn't get off the horse, so she could only nervously snuggle tightly in Li Zhan's arms and dare not move. Bai Zihan, Lu Xiongdong, Wei Bin, and others saw Li Zhan getting on the horse, so they also got on their horses, whipped their horses, and galloped out of the camp. Seeing that Xia Huanhuan was scared, Li Zhan gave up his original plan and commanded the horse to run slowly, as if taking a walk. After a while, he was left far behind by the other horses. Xia Huanhuan adapted for a while and saw that the horse's running was almost the same as walking, and even the bumps were only a little bit. She couldn't help but feel happy again, and her little face became even brighter as it rosied. She is also a horse rider. Li Zhan looked down at her lovingly and couldn't help but lean over and give her a light kiss on the head. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. Then she reacted and said with a red face, "Don't. Let others see you." Li Zhan laughed softly and said, "So what if they see me? I'll kiss my wife. Let them be jealous." When Bai Zihan and the others saw that Li Zhan had not caught up, they turned back and could not help but teasing him. "Boss, you are riding too slowly. Look, you're already the last one." Li Zhan narrowed his eyes dangerously, gritted his teeth, and laughed. "Don't be so cocky. Don't think I don't know you guys did it on purpose. See how I deal with you later. Didn't you see your sister-in-law was scared the first time she rode a horse? Have fun. I'll take your sister-in-law back first." As he said this, he pulled the reins and was about to go back. When Bai Zihan and the others heard this, they no longer had the heart to have fun. Hey, boss, isn't it okay that we are wrong? Let's go back too. Otherwise, there will be no fun in this bridal chamber, right? Haha. Several horses strolled back to the camp. Li Zhan dismounted first, and then carried Xia Huanhuan off the horse. Fu Beifa and Jiang Huan were also wearing brand new military uniforms and were waiting for them in the auditorium. Seeing them coming in, Fu Beifa couldn't help but glared at Li Zhan and Bai Zihan and scolded. "Look at what you can do. I prepared a jeep for you, but you didn't want it. You insisted on riding a horse? Don't you know it's dangerous?" Bai Zihan chuckled guiltily and said, "Master, I was wrong. We were inconsiderate. But don't worry, our boss loves his wife very much. In fact, he just rode for 2 steps." Fu Beifa stared at Bai Zihan, frightening him so much that his voice became quieter and quieter. Jiang Wan smiled and said, All right, nothing happened, don't make a big deal out of it. Just preside over the wedding." Fu Beifa cleared his throat and, as the master of ceremonies, gave some instructions to Jiang Wan. After a while, the wedding banquet in the cafeteria was ready. The deer that Li Zhan had killed was also put to good use. Grilled deer legs, stir-fried deer meat, stewed deer meat with mushrooms and potatoes, and sweet and sour deer chops. In addition, there is a sheep prepared in advance by the canteen, grilled lamb skewers with fat and lean meat, fried lamb offal with sour beans, radish and lamb bone soup, etc. On the contrary, there was a lack of vegetables. There was only 1 spicy stir-fried cabbage, 1 stir-fried mushroom, and 1 fried tofu. The staple food is mixed flour steamed buns and mixed grain porridge. However, this is already 10 times more abundant than usual. Xia Huanhuan had a poor appetite these days, but she still ate a few pieces of venison and drank 2 bowls of mutton soup. The mutton was not fishy at all and tasted great. The camp rules prohibited drinking, so Li Zhan took Xia Huanhuan to each table to toast with tea instead of wine. Xia Huanhuan also gradually relaxed. Although she was shy, she was able to toast and greet people in a graceful and confident manner. When everyone saw Xia Huanhuan, they couldn't help but stare in amazement. They all heard that Li Zhan's family had married him a country girl without his consent. They thought she must be a rural woman who was very ugly, dark, thin, and ugly. But today, she turned out to be more beautiful than a fairy.
Oh my God. How lucky are you, Li Zhan?
You can marry such a beautiful wife even in an arranged marriage.
Oh.
Isn't it true? My wife is from the city. Compared with my sister-in-law, my wife looks like she is from the country. Li Zhan, you're so annoying. Boss, can you help ask my sister-in-law if she has a younger sister?
Can you introduce her to me?
It was not until 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening that the bride was sent to the bridal chamber. Bai Zihan and the others looked like they were going to make a scene in the bridal chamber, but were scared off by Li Zhan's cold look. We won't make a scene. Isn't it okay if we don't make a scene? How stingy. This time, Li Zhan didn't even say hello. He just picked up Xia Huanhuan and walked towards the tent where he lived.
Ah,
Xia Huanhuan was so scared that she quickly hugged Li Zhan's neck and whispered angrily, "My feet are no longer numb. I can walk by myself." Li Zhan leaned over and whispered in her ear with a low laugh, "Yes, I know.
but
My wife, I am happy to hug you." Xia Huanhuan. Have you ever thought about asking your wife's opinion first? Li Zhan and his men were temporarily staying in this camp for a few days after their mission. They would set off again when their new mission came. Therefore, they were not assigned brick and tile houses and all lived in tents. Walking into the tent, Li Zhan put Xia Huanhuan down, motioning her not to move, and he groped for a match, lit one, and was about to light the oil lamp. After lighting the match, I found that the oil lamp was gone, and instead there were 2 red candles. Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help feeling warm in his heart. After lighting the red candles and looking around, I saw a bright red quilt on the camp bed, and wedding characters cut out of red paper were pasted on the walls of the tent, which looked very festive. No wonder those rascals wouldn't let him enter the tent. It turned out it was secretly arranged like this.
it's
Quite thoughtful. Xia Huanhuan also looked around the tent and couldn't help but glance at Li Zhan, scolding him. Why didn't you tell me in advance? I was not mentally prepared at all. In front of so many of your comrades and superiors, I was so arrogant. Li Zhan scratched his head and decided to confess. I didn't know about this beforehand. No wonder Brother Fu punished him to go to the mountains for outdoor training for 2 days and 1 night. It turned out that he was arranging these things for him. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then looked at Li Zhan with some sadness. Then, this wedding is not your wish, too?
could it be that?
Her excitement, shyness, and touching today were all due to misunderstanding and wishful thinking? Li Zhan quickly explained, "The wedding is my wish. I was planning to take a leave these few days to go back and hold the wedding with you. But the commander did not agree to my leave application. I was planning to keep asking for leave until he agreed. Who knew that they would send me away and secretly take you in? Huanhuan, if this wedding is not what I want, then I will be struck by lightning." Xia Huanhuan heard him swearing and couldn't help but cover his mouth quickly. "It's fine as long as you want to. Why are you swearing?" Li Zhan grabbed Xia Huanhuan's hand. His dark eyes were deep and unfathomable. "Huanhuan, I can lie and say that I arranged all this. Brother Fu, Bai Zihan, and other brothers will definitely help me to cover up this lie and prevent you from discovering the truth. But I don't want to lie to you. If I lie to you about this, what kind of person would I be? Not only would I take advantage of Brother Fu and the brothers' good intentions, but my heart towards you would also not be pure, would it?" Xia Huanhuan heard him say his heart, and somehow she became a little nervous. She tried twice to pull her hand back. I know. Isn't it okay if I don't blame you anymore?" Li Zhan looked at her and asked softly, "Isn't it strange?" Xia Huanhuan looked at him, shook her head, and sighed. "Actually, if you think about it carefully, you can find loopholes. How could you use your identity to seek personal gain? If you said you would go back and hold a wedding with me, I would believe it. If you said you would send someone to pick me up in the military camp and hold a military wedding, I would definitely figure it out after today. That was a lie." There was a flash of surprise in Li Zhan's eyes, which then turned into infinite tenderness. He kissed Xia Huanhuan's palm and smiled softly. "The one who knows me best is my wife." Outside the tent, Fu Beifa, Bai Zihan, and others couldn't help but curse Li Zhan in their hearts. Fu Beifa. This brat is using their feelings as a way to coax his wife. He even boasts of his noble character. Bai Zihan. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Don't you know that a night of spring is worth 1,000 gold? Others. The boss is really patient. Why doesn't he pounce on such a good wife, like a wolf? Xia Huanhuan blushed and took the opportunity to pull her hand back. I didn't praise you, but you still showing off. Li Zhan chuckled twice, then picked up the thermos in the room and said, sit for a while, I'll go to the water room and get you some hot water. As he said this, he was about to go out with the kettle. As soon as he moved, there were all kinds of rustling noises outside. Even Xia Huanhuan noticed it and couldn't help asking, what's that noise outside? Li Zhan's face darkened, but he said calmly, it's okay. This place is deserted and there are many night owls. He left the tent and did not go to get water. Instead, he looked around the tent first. Sure enough, he caught quite a few people eavesdropping. Bai Zihan laughed twice, then looked up at the sky. Today's moonlight is so charming. It's a good day to enjoy the moon.
Li Zhan looked up at the sky.
It was the beginning of the month. Where did the moon come from? Bai Zihan laughed dryly twice and suddenly saw Fu Beifa, who was about to go back with his hands behind his back, and shouted, Commander, you came out for a walk too. Fu Beifa turned around and glared at Bai Zihan fiercely. Then he also looked up at the sky and said seriously, well, the stars are nice tonight. Come out and take a look. Li Zhan. Li Zhan went to fetch water only after the wolves had dispersed. Xia Huanhuan had already fallen asleep on the camp bed, with her clothes on. Li Zhan looked at her tenderly, couldn't help but sigh, put down the thermos, and went over to unbutton her clothes. Xia Huanhuan woke up in a daze and asked, huh? I fell asleep? Did you bring water? Li Zhan smiled and said, well, go to sleep. I'll help you take off your clothes so you can sleep more comfortably, otherwise you'll catch a cold tomorrow. Xia Huanhuan blushed and grabbed his hand, sitting up and said, no, I will feel uncomfortable if I don't wash it. As he said this, he mixed hot water with cold water, washed himself, and then lay back down. Li Zhan had seen that she was asleep and had planned to just endure it for the night, but now that he saw that she was awake, his thoughts started to change again. He held her in his arms, and his big hands moved restlessly on Xia Huanhuan's body. After a short while, he had almost stripped off her clothes. Xia Huanhuan shyly resisted a little at first, but later she just let him do what he wanted. After all, this was the first time for the two of them, and a little time away made the heart grow fonder. However, before she reached the last step, Xia Huanhuan suddenly felt nauseous. She pushed Li Zhan away, stuck her head out of the bed, and started to retch. Li Zhan was startled and quickly hugged her. While stroking her back, he was extremely worried. Huanhuan, what's wrong? Did you have an upset stomach? But they all had the same meal at night, and this was his wedding banquet, so the chef in the cafeteria must have used the freshest ingredients. It was impossible. Xia Huanhuan waved her hand and said, it's okay. Don't worry. It's been like this from time to time these days. It may be that I've been a little tired during this period. I'll be fine after a good sleep. Li Zhan frowned, calculated the time in his mind, and asked, Huanhuan, you are not pregnant, are you? Xia Huanhuan turned her head and glanced at Li Zhan. No. No way. In fact, when she had some symptoms of nausea, she did have doubts and even tried to take her own pulse. However, the pulse was a little chaotic and different from the happy pulse described by her master, so she did not dare to make a conclusion. Later, I asked the master to check it again, and he also said that it was just a little tired. Although her master seemed to be hesitant to speak, it shouldn't be a wrong diagnosis, right? Li Zhan poured her a glass of water, asked her to rinse her mouth, and then drank some, saying, go to sleep first. Let's ask the military doctor in the camp to check it out tomorrow morning. The next morning, the military doctor said seriously, yes, she's pregnant. Then she looked at Li Zhan, then at Xia Huanhuan and angrily scolded, don't you know that you should see a doctor if you are not feeling well? And can't you calculate the date for yourself? You are pregnant, and you took your wife horseback riding yesterday? Fortunately, you just took a walk and didn't run. If you really ran, the child would be lost, and I don't know where you can go to cry. The two of them lowered their heads after being scolded, not daring to say a word in rebuttal. Xia Huanhuan secretly glared at Li Zhan. It was all because of this rascal that she got scolded as well. So, she gave him a good beating where the doctor couldn't see. Li Jian couldn't help but hiss in pain, but he quickly held it. The doctor scolded them a few more times, then prescribed some pregnancy-preserving drugs and sent the two of them out. Within the morning, the news that Li Jian's wife was pregnant spread throughout the camp. However, everyone knew that Li Jian had been married for a while and had even gone back home for a family visit during the Chinese New Year, so there were no rumors. When everyone saw Xia Huanhuan, they all smiled and congratulated her. Jiang Wan came over with a smile and told Xia Huanhuan a lot of precautions, such as food taboos. She and Fu Beifa had 2 children, who were now being taken care of by their great-grandfather in Beijing, so she was quite experienced. What could Xia Huanhuan say? She had studied Chinese medicine for a long time, but she didn't treat herself. She realized it only now. Jiang Wan smiled and said, "It's only been almost 2 months, right? While the baby is still not that heavy, you should prepare the baby's clothes and shoes quickly. But you should also be careful not to overwork yourself, as protecting the fetus is important. Also, if Li Jian is ignorant and insists on asking you to do that, you can't indulge him." Xia Huanhuan blushed and said embarrassedly, "Oh, Sister Jiang, Li Jian didn't." After saying this, she seemed to be protecting him, and her face couldn't help but turn redder. Jiang Wan smiled and said, "No, it's best. If he dares, tell Big Sister, and I'll have their teacher punish him." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help stamping her feet. "Sister, you still said." After chatting for a while, Jiang Wan left. Li Jian came back and said with a smile, "Sister-in-law didn't say anything bad about me again, did she?" Xia Huanhuan blushed a little, coughed twice, and said, "No, she just said she would start preparing clothes for the children." In this era, 50 and 100 yuan notes had not yet been issued, so they were all 5 yuan notes, or 10 yuan notes, commonly known as the Great Unity Note. Judging from the thickness, they weighed at least a few hundred yuan. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment and looked at him in astonishment. "Where did you get so much money?" Most of Li Jian's allowance should have been sent back home, so it's impossible for him to have so much money left in his hands. Li Jian said with a smile, "You should accept the gifts from your brothers. You are pregnant now, and you will have many expenses in the future, so don't be stingy." Xia Huanhuan heard this and took it. She counted and found that there were about 500 or 600 yuan. Why is it so much? Is it really appropriate to accept this? Li Jian took off his coat and said, "The division commander gave $20, Lao Bai, and the other company commanders gave $10, and the lower ones gave $5. There's nothing inappropriate. Except for the division commander and a few veterans who are married, the others are still single. We'll return the gifts when they get married." Xia Huanhuan thought about it and realized that it was right. Isn't that what it means to give gifts and reciprocate? So she put it away. This way, when she goes back and wants to build a house, she will have an explanation for where the money came from. Li Jian asked, "Are you hungry? I'll go to the cafeteria to get some food. I'll take you around the area this afternoon." Having said that, he went out again with the stainless steel lunchbox. After a while, he came back with 2 big white steamed buns and 2 mixed flour steamed buns, as well as a dish of fried bacon with onions, a dish of fried tofu, a dish of stir-fried spinach, and a serving of sweet potato and rice porridge. Li Jian handed her the big white steamed bun and said with a smile, "Old Zhang in the cafeteria also knew that my wife was pregnant, so he specially left the white steamed buns, white porridge, and these dishes for me. I am just benefiting from you." Xia Huanhuan felt warm in her heart when she looked at the dishes. She stayed there for 2 days and realized that there was little arable land here and more grassland for livestock. Beef, mutton, and the like were supplied at regular intervals and in fixed quantities, but vegetables and grains were often out of stock. People mainly ate steamed cornbread and only had mixed flour steamed buns on holidays. This meal includes vegetables, meat, and white steamed buns, and it was really prepared with great care. But this amount...
I'm speechless.
Are they treating her like a pig? You've made so much. How can you finish it? Li Jian glanced at her belly and said with a smile, "If you can't finish it, I'll be there for you. It's better to have more than less. I can't let my son starve." Xia Huanhuan glanced at him and said angrily, "What if it's a girl?" Li Jian didn't hesitate and said with a smile, A daughter is even better. When the time comes, I will give birth to a daughter as beautiful as you. I will love her more than my son. Xia Huanhuan curled her lips and continued to argue. What if my daughter is not pretty? Would you not feel pain? Li Zhan was stunned for a moment and said, that shouldn't be the case. After all, her father and mother are so good-looking. Xia Huanhuan chuckled. It was bad enough that he just praised her, but she was also quite narcissistic. She blushed and lowered her head to eat the steamed bun, but she passed the test and did not have any idea of favoring boys over girls. She originally thought that she would not be able to finish it, but Xia Huanhuan found that her appetite was indeed much better than before. She ate 1.5 of the 2 large white steamed buns and gave the remaining half to Li Zhan. As for the vegetables and porridge, she did not leave any. If she continues to eat like this, she will probably become as fat as a wall. After dinner, Li Zhan washed the lunchbox and came back, then he pulled her and said with a smile, let's go, we just finished dinner, let's take a walk to digest it. During the rest period of these few days, Li Zhan and his team did not have any specific work to do. They just trained in the morning and then followed the arrangements of the commander of the camp to help with horse patrols and the like. Li Zhan's position has just been promoted, and he has a lot more clerical work to do, as well as various official documents, telegrams, and letters to deal with, so he is busy all day long. However, since his wife came to visit, Bai Zihan and several other company commanders, as well as Fu Beifa, helped to deal with some of the matters, allowing him to spend more time with his wife. This place is further north than Qingshui village, so even though it is early spring, the grass is just beginning to turn green, with tender yellow and green grass buds covering the ground, and some relatively small wildflowers dotted among them. Xia Huanhuan stepped on the soft grass. The sky was high, and the clouds were vast. The withered yellow gradually turned green. The vast grassland was full of vitality. She felt relaxed and happy and couldn't help but take a few more breaths of the fresh air. It's worthwhile to travel through time. Otherwise, even if she spent money on traveling, she would not be able to visit such a grassland that still retains its original state and has not been polluted or damaged. Li Zhan was afraid that she would fall, so he kept holding her hand and refused to let go. But since there was no one around, Xia Huanhuan let him do what he wanted. You shot the deer that day on that mountain, right? Xia Huanhuan pointed to a mountain in the distance that was covered with pine trees and snow on the upper part, and asked.
Li Zhan smiled and said yes.
On the way back, I saw a wild boar, but I thought it would be troublesome to carry it, so I let it go. Xia Huanhuan's eyes lit up. Shall we go to the mountains to hunt wild boars? Li Zhen. He had heard that Xia Huanhuan had caught a wild boar with a trap at home. But can it be the same now as it was then? Huanhuan, do you still remember that you were pregnant? Li Zhan said helplessly. Xia Huanhuan sighed in disappointment. At this time, there were the sounds of galloping horses and neighing horses on the grass. Soon, Bai Zihan and a few soldiers came close, slowed down their horses, saluted Li Zhan, and then smiled at Xia Huanhuan. Sister-in-law, are you out for a walk with the boss? The other soldier also seemed to be the cheerful and straightforward type. Xia Huanhuan remembered that he was the one who asked Li Zhan if he had a girlfriend on the wedding night. His name seemed to be Wu Xiao. Wu Xiao didn't seem to give up and asked again, Sister-in-law, our team leader refused to tell me. Do you have any girlfriends? If you do, please introduce them to me. I'm a really nice person. Xia Huanhuan opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. Li Zhan, who was standing at the side, said with a straight face, Wu Xiao, you little rascal. Your sister-in-law is one of a kind in the world. Don't say that she doesn't have a sister. Even if she does, she can't be as pretty as her. Wu Xiao shrank his head and protested in a low voice. Captain, if there is no such thing, then there is no such thing. What little rascal. At least we are wolf cubs, right? There are no weak soldiers under a strong general. If we were rascals, would you be the rabbit captain? Xia Huanhuan imagined a rabbit wearing a military uniform and wearing the shoulder straps of a regiment commander. It seemed quite cute, and I couldn't help but burst out laughing. After Wu Xiao finished his struggle, he didn't dare to stay and get beaten, So he waved his whip and ran away. Li Jian couldn't help but laugh and scold. You are just a wolf cub with such courage. He asked Bai Zihan a few more questions if anything happened during the patrol. Bai Zihan smiled and told him to stay with his wife. With them around, even if the sky fell, it would not disturb their world of two. After saying that, he and the others galloped away laughing. Xia Huanhuan looked at the galloping horses and felt a little envious. I want to learn how to ride a horse. That day was her first time riding a horse, which was a bit embarrassing, but now that she was mentally prepared, she wanted to try it again. Li Jian had a headache and immediately took his wife, who was thinking of all kinds of dangerous things, into his arms and said domineeringly, No, Comrade Xia Huanhuan, you are pregnant. Even for the sake of our daughter, you should be a good boy in the remaining 8 months. Otherwise, the daughter you give birth to in the future will definitely be a naughty girl who will climb up and down and be very naughty. Xia Huanhuan glanced at him and muttered, Stingy. If you don't let me ride, then I won't ride. It's not like I don't have a horse. She should have a lot of horses in her space. After she gives birth to the baby, she will train in the space by herself. Li Jian didn't hear what she muttered, so he asked, What did you say? Xia Huanhuan coughed twice, and then remembered that he had just changed the words to our daughter, so she smiled and evaded the question. I say, how do you know it's a daughter? Maybe it's a boy. Li Jian could not help but gnashing his teeth in anger. He first said it was a son, and she argued that it was a daughter. Now that he said it was a daughter, she came back and said it was a son. It's really itchy. Seeing that Li Jian was stumped by her question, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but blink and smile at him with a little pride. The next second, the arms around her waist suddenly tightened, and then the back of her head was held, and then warm, thin lips covered hers, and then attacked domineeringly, conquering the city.
Well.
Xia Huanhuan's hands tightly grasped Li Jian's clothes on her chest, and she looked around fearfully out of the corner of her eyes. It is true that this place is vast and sparsely populated, but it also has a panoramic view. You can clearly see what you are doing from dozens of meters away. Li Jian, this rascal. Doesn't he know the difference between occasion and time? But soon she was kissed so hard that her legs went limp, and she didn't know whether it was because of shyness or lack of oxygen. She felt dizzy and couldn't care about anything. Xia Huanhuan was gasping for breath and couldn't speak for a while. Her face turned red to the back of her ears. She punched him in the chest in anger. Li Jian leaned over and bit her lip again, then gently placed his hand on her belly and said with a smile, As long as it's you who gives birth to me, I like it whether it's a son or a daughter. It would be best if it were twins, so we don't have to argue about it. Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes at him and said with a smile, You're just wishful thinking. How can it be that easy to conceive twins? Li Jian laughed and said, It doesn't matter if it's not. After this one is born, we can have a few more. It will be the same. Xia Huanhuan. Why did she feel like she was on a pirate ship? After walking for a while, the two returned to their tent. Li Jian went back to the camp to handle military affairs. She rested for a while, thought about it, and went to the cafeteria. Old Zhang in the cafeteria already knew her after all, although there were female soldiers in the military camp. Most of them were men. Suddenly, a family member came, and she was younger and more beautiful than Chang'e on the moon. Who would not be impressed? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Uncle Zhang, can I borrow your place for a while? Old Zhang held the spatula and said with a smile, What? Captain Li still lets his pregnant wife cook for him? That's too rude. I'll tell his superiors about it. Xia Huanhuan knew it was a joke, so she smiled and said, No. I brought some glutinous rice, sesame, and other things from home, and wanted to make some dumplings. Last Chinese New Year, he went back to visit his family, and I forgot about it, so I didn't have time to eat it. When old Zhang heard this, he laughed and said, Is that so? Then come in. It's a good opportunity for me to take advantage of the situation and have a few bites.
Hey.
Xia Huanhuan agreed and went into the cafeteria. When she was about to leave, she didn't know what to bring, and suddenly remembered that Li Jian hadn't eaten the glutinous rice, so she took out glutinous rice flour, black sesame seeds, and sugar from the space, and filled a heavy bag. At that time, Lu Xiangdong and Wei Bin asked her what it was, and she said it was food. The two didn't say anything, and they neatly put it on their backs and brought it to her. What Xia Huanhuan didn't know was that although Lu Xiangdong and Wei Bin didn't show it on their faces, they were actually quite surprised in their hearts. They felt that although this sister-in-law was pretty, she looked a bit rustic. She even brought food with her when she went out. Was she afraid that their camp could not provide food? Lard was inconvenient to get, so Xia Huanhuan originally planned not to use lard, and the taste would definitely be good. However, old Zhang had been a cook for many years, and he had already prepared a piece of lard to help her make the dumplings. Xia Huanhuan actually made hundreds of dumplings with the ingredients she brought over, each one of them round and plump, lying in the winnowing basket. The dinner that night had a rare dessert, sesame dumplings. The camp is well supplied with necessary necessities such as oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, grain, meat, eggs, etc., but things like sugar, sesame seeds, glutinous rice flour, etc. are rare and can only be distributed in small quantities on the 15th day of the first lunar month. It is usually quite difficult to eat something sweet. Therefore, when everyone saw that there were dumplings on the menu and asked around, they found out that they were made by Captain Li's wife herself, and they all came early and lined up as if they were injected with chicken blood. Even if the number is limited to one per person, there are hundreds of people in the camp, and it is difficult to divide them all. It is still first come, first served. Fortunately, this was made by Xia Huanhuan specifically for Li Zhan, and Li Zhan's portion was reserved for others, so there were about 10 of them. After Li Zhan returned, he looked at the glutinous rice in the bowl and said with a smile, "No wonder Xiangdong and Wei Bin whispered to me that my sister-in-law brought a big bag of food. So this is what she brought." Xia Huanhuan blushed a little and said, "I brought this from afar. If you dare to say you don't like sweets, I will never make it for you again." Li Zhan picked up the bowl and said with a smile, "Who said I don't like sweets? Especially the sweets made by my wife. I like them the most." Xia Huanhuan supported her chin with her hand and couldn't help but smile gently as she watched Li Zhan eat the dumplings. Li Zhan ate and smiled. "It's quite delicious. No wonder those guys in the cafeteria have such a long line." After thinking about it, he couldn't help but feel jealous. Those rabbits. Wolf cubs are so lucky. They get to eat the dumplings made by my wife. Xia Huanhuan. This guy is quite jealous. After dinner and eating the dumplings, the two washed up and turned off the lights and went to bed. Even though Xia Huanhuan was pregnant now, and Li Zhan couldn't do anything, the two of them were rarely together after all, so Li Zhan still held Xia Huanhuan in his arms and satisfied his pleasure with his hands. Xia Huanhuan was extremely embarrassed, but she followed his lead reluctantly. In the next few days, Li Zhan still took time to accompany Xia Huanhuan. Although hunting in the mountains is not allowed, it is still possible to find rabbit holes on the grassland and catch an entire nest of rabbits. Xia Huanhuan looked at the nest of shivering little rabbits and couldn't help but tease them. "As the leader of the rabbit group, you have destroyed the rabbits' nests. Don't you feel guilty?" Li Zhan was stunned for a moment, then realized that she was making fun of the twisted logic that Wu Xiao said that day, and he couldn't help but grit his teeth in hatred. Xia Huanhuan, however, still smiled mischievously. She really thinks Captain Bunny is cute. Before I traveled through time, wasn't there an animation called Your Hair Affair? The rabbit in that animation was also very cute, and his identity fit the character very well. It's a pity that I can't tell Li Zhan. Just as she was daydreaming, Li Zhan suddenly threw her down on the grass. "Rabbit? Then I'll show you whether your man is a rabbit or a wolf." The two of them were squatting and the grass was soft so they didn't fall. Even so, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but scream "ah," and then her hands were pressed to the ground above her head, and her lips were blocked. When the rabbit family nearby saw this, why didn't they seize the opportunity to escape? After Li Zhan finished punishing everyone, he turned over and lay on his back on the grass, looking at the high sky and vast clouds. Xia Huanhuan was so angry that she didn't want to pay any attention to this rascal who suddenly attacked her, but after a while, she still took the initiative to secretly touch Li Zhan's hand, and sure enough, she was immediately wrapped by Li Zhan's big hand. Xia Huanhuan found it quite magical. To be honest, She and Li Zhan didn't do much during the few days they spent together. They just took walks, were kissed and hugged. Because she was pregnant, she didn't lift him up high. Then they talked nonsense and joked with each other, making fun of each other and sabotaging each other. It seemed that they didn't even say a word of love. But I am very happy. Every minute and every second seems to be immersed in a honey pot. Even the air is sweet. It makes people want to freeze time at this moment, as if the long time in the past and future is much inferior to this moment. It seems that at this moment, 1 point less would be insufficient, 1 point more would be overflowing just right. After a while, Li Zhan sat up and said with a smile, "Go back. You'll catch a cold if you lie down any longer." Xia Huanhuan also stood up with a blush on her face, then looked at the empty rabbit nest beside her, and couldn't help saying, "The rabbits have all run away." Li Zhan leaned over to take a look and said with a smile, "Didn't you feel sorry for that family just now? Now you want them again? I'll catch them for you tomorrow." Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes at him and said, "Forget it. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll just let them go." The two of them walked back. Xia Huanhuan suddenly thought that Li Zhan seemed to have never asked about the situation at home in the past few days. When she first came over, she briefly mentioned that the 3 kids were now being taken care of by their parents, and that Xiaowen had already registered for primary school in town. She didn't mention that Lu Lan's money was stolen by Li Qiaoqiao, and that Li Qiaoqiao was missing. But Li Zhan didn't ask a single question. Xia Huanhuan didn't know whether Li Zhan was worried about the bad relationship between her and Lu Lan and so deliberately didn't mention it, or whether he himself was rather indifferent to Lu Lan, and apart from fulfilling his basic obligations of 5 yuan a month, he didn't pay much attention to anything else. However, she quickly put these bad things aside and stopped thinking about them. Anyway, she was not willing to talk about these things. Lu Lan herself might have written a letter to Li Zhan to complain a long time ago, but Li Zhan had no fixed residence and his whereabouts were uncertain, so the letter might still be in transit. She did mention that she had recently been close to Shenwan Xue and Yang Qiushi from the cowsheet. After all, the identity and situation over there are sensitive. Although Li Zhan should not object, he still needs to be told in advance. Li Zhan nodded and said, "Well, they are quite sympathetic, but you should be careful too." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "I know. I will be careful." A few days passed. Li Zhan and his companions began to pack their bags. The next mission had not been officially issued yet, but it could come at any time, so they had to be ready to set off at any time. Although reluctant, it is finally time to say goodbye. Li Zhan was unable to send her back personally, so he asked Jiang Wan to arrange 2 people to send her back, one of whom was a female soldier. He also asked Jiang Wan to help with another matter. Jiang Wan naturally agreed. Li Zhan personally sent Xia Huanhuan to the train station. Regardless of the presence of others, he hugged her tightly and said with a smile, "Be careful on the road. When you get back, send me a telegram. Just send it here, and they will help me pass it on." Xia Huanhuan felt a sour nose and nodded dejectedly. It's really too pretentious. But he couldn't control his emotions and was already deeply immersed in the play. The train started slowly. Li Zhan ran after the train for a while, then with a big sunny smile on his face, he waved goodbye to her. Xia Huanhuan. Tears fell down in torrents. This rascal, what the Hades is he laughing at? And he's laughing so happily. The car accelerated, and Li Zhan stopped at the end of the platform, still waving. The female soldier named Xiao He who accompanied her back took out a handkerchief and handed it to Xia Huanhuan, comforting her. "Sister-in-law, don't cry. Commander Li will definitely come back to see you soon." Xia Huanhuan took the handkerchief somewhat embarrassedly, sniffed, and said stubbornly, "I didn't cry. It's just that the sand got in my eyes." Xiao He and another gay man, Xiao Li, were speechless. Their windows were not open. Where did the sand come from? The journey was smooth, but Xia Huanhuan was still sleepy and fell asleep in the sleeper berth most of the time. On the way, Xiao He and Xiao Li got off a train and received a large package delivered by another man in military uniform at a big station. Xia Huanhuan didn't care about it, thinking it was some package from their troops. The two of them sent Xia Huanhuan all the way to Qingshui village. The military base in the county town was asked to send vehicles directly to the village. Xiaowen was not at home because he was at school in town. Xiaowu, Beibei, and other children saw the jeep and ran to the village entrance to see it eagerly. Lin Yuru was worried, so she hurried over. When Xia Huanhuan got off the car, Lin Yuru and the two kids were stunned for a moment. Then the two kids suddenly ran over, grabbed Xia Huanhuan's pants with their little hands, raised their heads, and shouted with tears in their eyes, "Mom!" Xiao He and Xiao Li were both shocked. Didn't Captain Li just get married? My sister-in-law is pregnant not long ago, right? Where did such a big kid come from? Xia Huanhuan saw that they had misunderstood, so she smiled and said, "They're the children of Brother Li Zhan. We have adopted them now. There is also an older one who is studying in town." After hearing this, Xiao He and Xiao Li suddenly realized. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "You are all in the village now. Have dinner at home before going back." Xiao He and Xiao Li laughed and said, "Sister-in-law, we have another task to do. We need to find the commune's secretary first. I think it's Secretary Zhao." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. They sent her home, so wasn't her mission accomplished? Why did she have something else to ask Secretary Zhao? When they arrived at the commune, Xiao He and Xiao Li put the packages they had received at the platform on the table, and then said to Secretary Zhao with a smile, "Secretary Zhao, this is the wedding candy for our Captain Li and his sister-in-law's wedding. We'd like to trouble you to distribute it to every household in the village." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. The package actually contains candy? It's sesame candy from Beijing and the famous white rabbit candy from Shanghai. I bought such a big bag. Not to mention the money, the food coupons alone cost a lot. Was all this arranged by Li Zhan? However, she and Li Zhan have been married for several months. Why are they giving out wedding candies now? What the Hades is Li Zhan up to? Secretary Zhao was also stunned. He looked at Xia Huanhuan, then at Xiao He and Xiao Li, and asked hesitantly, "Wedding candy?" Xiao He smiled and said, "That's what happened. When Captain Li and his sister-in-law got married, didn't they have a wedding? Originally, they planned to have a wedding in the village, but then the troops started to stir up trouble, so they took his sister-in-law over and held a wedding in the army. Captain Li said he felt bad that the villagers didn't get to have a feast, so he asked us to buy some wedding candies and make sure to distribute them to every household." Secretary Zhao smiled and said, "Oh, so that's what happened. When Li Zhan's wife got married, Lu Lan's wedding gifts were not authentic and too shabby. Don't worry, I will definitely deliver the wedding candies to every household." Xiao Li continued, "Thank you, Secretary Zhao. Our team leader Li said that this time the wedding with my sister-in-law will not be held in the village. But when the baby is born, we will definitely invite everyone in the village to attend the full moon banquet." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then her eyes became hot and she felt moved. Unexpectedly, Li Zhan, who looks like a rough man with untidy beard, is such a thoughtful person. After she and Li Zhan broke the news, she also considered that if she got pregnant, the villagers would gossip about her, so she secretly told Zhou Qiuhe about it. Li Jia also knew about it. But the reaction in the village when she said this and when Li Zhan said this was completely different. If she says it, some people will believe it, but there will naturally be some sharp-tongued people who will not only not believe it but also make up stories saying that she stole a man and deliberately threw a smokescreen. Rumors will still spread. When Li Zhan said it, it became much more credible. After all, there is no man in this world who would take the initiative to acknowledge the pregnancy of his wife after she got pregnant by an unfaithful man, right? Li Zhan has now arranged for someone from the army to mention the matter of her pregnancy. Isn't that equivalent to him personally coming forward to clarify? Secretary Zhao's eyes widened when he heard this. He subconsciously glanced at Xia Huanhuan, then looked at Xiao Li and asked in surprise, "Comrade, you said, the birth of a child? A full-month banquet?" Li Zhan is not. Xiao Li was stunned for a moment and was a little surprised why Secretary Zhao was so surprised, and said, "No. Captain Li's family members are all pregnant. In another 8 months, the baby will be born and a full-month banquet will be held at that time. Is there any problem?" Secretary Zhao blinked his eyes and looked at Xia Huanhuan again. Seeing that Xia Huanhuan's face had turned red with embarrassment, he finally realized what was happening and said in surprise, "Really? Oh, this is such a happy event. I said that Li Zhan is a good person and God would never let him have no descendants. Okay. Then I can look forward to drinking the full moon wine for his child." Then he said, "Comrades, it's almost time for dinner. You should eat in the village before leaving." Xia Huanhuan was grateful for their thoughtful care in sending her back and said, "Yes, Shao Li, please send me back. Let's have a simple meal at my house before leaving." The two of them refused firmly. "Secretary Zhao, sister-in-law, we have discipline in our army. We cannot take even a single needle or a thread from the masses. Otherwise, we will be punished if we go back. Besides, we have bought train tickets for the evening. If we don't leave quickly, we will miss the train." Xia Huanhuan wanted to bring them some bacon or something, but was rejected. She tried to bring cooked food like big meat buns and steamed buns in the space, but she had just arrived home, and it was not convenient to take them out, so she had to give up in the end. After seeing the two off, Xia Huanhuan returned home. Lin Yuru hurriedly prepared lunch. Xia Huanhuan washed her hands and came to help, asking, "Where's my dad?" While kneading the dough, Lin Yuru smiled and said, "I'm going to water the vegetable garden. You've planted a lot of varieties. The chives have grown. I cut a bunch of them and made some white flour dumplings stuffed with chives and eggs." Before leaving, Xia Huanhuan gave Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan 10 yuan to spend and told them not to save it and to eat the white flour, bacon, and eggs at home. There would be no cornmeal steamed bread on their table, and when she came back, she would check the consumption of grain and bacon at home. Now, after hearing what Lin Yuru said, it seems that she really didn't save money, so she smiled and nodded, saying, "Let's see if it grows again, and wrap it again in a few days. Now that you mention it, I want to eat it." When Lin Yuru heard this, she laughed and said, "Oh, do we have to wait 2 days? I'll go check it out and cut the chives and wrap them up this afternoon." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "That's fine. I haven't eaten the dumplings you made for a long time." As she spoke, she took down a piece of cured wild boar meat from the eaves, grabbed a handful of dried bamboo shoots that she had baked in the winter, soaked them in warm water to soften them, cut them into small pieces, and stir-fried a dish of wild boar meat and dried bamboo shoots. I also beat 3 or 4 eggs and fried them with chopped green onions to make some yellow and fragrant scrambled eggs. There was also a mushroom pheasant soup. The pheasants were caught by Xia Shuangshan in the mountains the day before yesterday. Lin Yuru estimated that Xia Huanhuan would be back in the next 2 days, so she didn't let them be killed. She raised them with some wild vegetables, grains, seeds, and the like. Now is the perfect time to kill them. Lin Yuru kneaded the dough, rolled it into noodles, boiled it in water, and served it into bowls. She scooped a bowl of fresh chicken soup into each bowl along with the meat and soup, and simply sprinkled some salt on it to make fresh and delicious chicken soup noodles. When Xiaowen was not around, Xiaowu and Beibei helped to light the fire and were very well behaved. Lin Yuru couldn't help but sigh. These 3 kids are so well behaved and sensible. These days they are either digging wild vegetables or collecting firewood, and they're also learning to write consciously. Xiaowen went to class, and when he came back he also helped with the housework and he helped a lot. Xia Huanhuan listened and looked at the 2 little kids who were busy making a fire and rubbing their little hands together, nodding and smiling. Yes, they are both very sensible. Beibei raised his little cat-like face and asked earnestly, "Mom, what is sensible?" Xiaowu glanced at her and said, "Stupid. Have you forgotten what your brother said before you went to school? Being sensible means you get candy." Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru both laughed. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Yes. Being sensible means you get candy. I'll give you candy after dinner." Beibei's eyes sparkled, and he couldn't help but ask excitedly, Then, can I skip the meal and just eat candy now?" Xia Huanhuan said with a straight face, "Of course not. If you don't eat well, you're not sensible, then you won't get any candy." When Beibei heard this, he immediately clenched his fist and expressed his determination. "Oh, then Beibei must be sensible and will eat well." Xia Huanhuan scooped a basin of water, washed her hands and faces with the two kids, and said with a smile, "Okay, let's eat quickly." Just then, Xia Shuangshan came back and brought Xiaowen back with him. Tomorrow is a weekend, and there will only be half-day classes on Friday. Zhou Qiuhua also has a half-day class, so she came back early. Xia Shuangshan came back from watering the vegetable garden and happened to meet Xiaowen at the entrance of the village, so he came back with Xiaowen. When Xiaowen saw Xia Huanhuan, joy was obviously revealed on his face, but he was too embarrassed to show it. In the end, he just called out to her proudly. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "You're back just in time. Let's wash our hands and have dinner." The family gathered around the table, eating hand-rolled noodles with some stir-fried vegetables and chicken soup. Xia Huanhuan added a little vinegar to her bowl of noodles, which made it taste very refreshing. She tore off 2 chicken legs from the chicken soup, gave one to Xiaowu and Beibei, one to Xiaowen, and the chicken wings to Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan, one each. Xiaowen refused to take it and insisted on giving the chicken leg to Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan knew that this boy had a weird and stubborn personality. Anyway, her family had enough chicken legs to eat, so she just let him give in this time and ate it herself. Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan also wanted to give in, but were scolded by Xia Huanhuan. But in the end, Xia Shuangshan's chicken wing was given to Xiaowen. Xia Shuangshan was obviously very happy when his daughter came back, and he said excitedly, "Xiaowen and Xiaowu, go into the mountains with Grandpa to catch pheasants this afternoon. Catch as many as possible, and try to get a chicken leg for each of you." The 3 little guys had long wanted to go hunting in the mountains with Xia Shuangshan, so they were so happy that they almost jumped up. Xia Huanhuan also wanted to go, but when she thought about the fact that she was pregnant, she held back. The whole family devoured it in no time and finished it all. Xia Huanhuan still felt hungry, so she asked Lin Yuru shyly, "Mom, do you have any more noodles?" Lin Yuru was a little surprised, as her daughter didn't seem to have such a big appetite before. But she immediately smiled and said, "Yes. I'll make you another bowl." Xia Huanhuan stood up and said with a smile, "You eat yours. I'll go by myself." Lin Yuru quickly finished the noodles in her bowl, stood up and said, "You kid. You've been traveling all night, take a rest." "I've finished eating, I'll go." Xia Huanhuan still ran to the kitchen to help. Lin Yuru asked how Li Zhan was doing in the army, and Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "He's doing fine. I guess he is on a mission again now." Lin Yuru sighed and said, "Alas. You have to take care of 3 little kids and do farm work. Your father and I are exhausted these few days. If your son-in-law had been at home, he could have helped. You have suffered so much." He added, "These 3 little ones are pretty good. They shouldn't be too bad when they grow up." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then she realized that she was talking about her and Li Zhan's future retirement. Suddenly she remembered that she seemed to have not told Lin Yuru about her pregnancy. Just now at Secretary Zhao's place, Lin Yuru didn't dare go in, and had been waiting outside with the 2 little ones. Xia Huanhuan was about to tell Lin Yuru, when suddenly Wu Xiaoyan and Zhou Qiuhua's voices came from the door. "Huanhuan? Are you home?" Xia Huanhuan came out and said with a smile, "I'm here." Wu Xiaoyan smiled and said, "Look, we are busy distributing wedding candies to her, but she is just relaxing at home." Zhou Qiuhua hit her and said with a smile, "This is the task your father-in-law gave you. You dragged me into it, but you want to blame it on Huanhuan?" As she spoke, Zhou Qiuhua came over with a smile in her eyes, grabbed Xia Huanhuan's hand, and asked in a low voice, "Huanhuan, Secretary Zhao said that you are already 2 months pregnant. Is it true?" Xia Huanhuan's face turned red, and she smiled and nodded. Lin Yuru was stunned, looking at the 3 people in confusion, and asked, "Wedding candy? Our Huanhuan is pregnant? What are you talking about? How is this possible?" Xia Huanhuan then told Lin Yuru that Li Zhan had never suffered that kind of injury, and that she and Li Zhan had re-held their wedding in the army, so there was the wedding candy. Lin Yuru was still stunned after hearing this. Then she looked unconvinced and asked with some stammering, "Juaner, are you saying your aunt and uncle are not injured? You can still have your own children?" As he spoke, his voice started to sob. Xia Huanhuan nodded affirmatively. "I'm pregnant. How can it be fake?" Lin Yuru was stunned, and then she burst into tears of joy. She wiped her tears and called Xia Shuangshan with a sob. Waner's father, you come out quickly. Our Waner is pregnant. Our Waner has her own child. Xia Shuangshan was also stunned when he heard this, and then he walked out suddenly, not even noticing that he had knocked over the chair. He looked at Xia Huanhuan with trembling lips, but couldn't say a word for a while. Waner's father, uncle is fine. Uncle is fine. Our Waner is a widow. Zhou Qiuhe and Wu Shaoren saw this and hurried over to persuade her. Annie, this is a good thing. Why are you crying? We are all happy for Huan. After some more persuasion, Lin Yuru finally calmed down, and Wu Shaoyan and Zhou Qiuhe helped distribute wedding candies door to door. Lin Yuru wiped her tears and said regretfully, Ah, you kid, have been home for such a while, and you haven't said a word. I just asked you to run around in the kitchen. Xia Huanhuan smiled and comforted her. Mom, I'm not that delicate. It's just cooking a meal. Why would I be so tired? Lin Yuru was rarely domineering. What do you know, little kid? The 2 or 3 months are the most dangerous. You don't have to work anymore. Your mother will come to prepare 3 meals a day for you and the 3 kids. As for the spring plowing, wheat harvest, and autumn planting, let your father do the farm work. This grandson of mine, who is conceived with great difficulty, cannot have any problems. Xia Shuangshan listened at the side without saying anything, just nodded, meaning that all the farm work was left to him. Xia Huanhuan thought about it, and it didn't seem so difficult. She and Li Zhan had only been together a few times and she got pregnant. But I couldn't say this out loud, so I smiled and said, Mom, how do you know it's a grandson and not a granddaughter? Lin Yuru smiled and said, Do you want to eat sour food these days? Or spicy food? Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment and recalled that she usually liked spicy food, but recently she seemed to like eating pickled vegetables. Sour, right? Lin Yuru smiled and said, That's right. Sour boy, spicy girl. You just added vinegar to your noodles, and now you want something sour. You must be a man. Xia Huanhuan was embarrassed. Who knows if this kind of folk experience is accurate? That afternoon, Li Zhan took his wife to the army to re-hold the wedding ceremony. The news that Xia Huanhuan was not injured and was already 2 months pregnant spread throughout Qingshui village along with the distribution of wedding candies. There are honest, simple, and grateful people who are truly happy for Li Zhan and his wife. Naturally, there are also some people who are sarcastic and mean and feel even more unbalanced. One of them is Lu Lan. When Lu Lan heard that her son and 4th son were not injured, she was not happy. Instead, she was so angry that her heart ached. Because all her money was stolen by Li Qiao, she was anxious and angry these days. Her hair, which had already been gray, turned completely white in an instant, and she also fell ill. Her second son, Li Chong, and Wang Guixiang were angry that she didn't take out so much money to support their second wife earlier, and now it was stolen by a money loser to support a strange man, so they were too angry to care about her. In the end, Li Jia asked the village doctor to see her and prescribe some medicine for her, but he didn't take any further care of her. Lu Lan had no choice but to drag her sick body out to boil medicine and cook for herself. She also sent a letter to Li Zhan, asking him to send her more money, but there was no reply. Lu Lan set her sights on Li Jia's family and wanted to live with them, letting the 3rd wife cook for her, do farm work for her, and take care of her in her old age. Fortunately, Li Jia had already seen through his mother's biased and selfish nature and refused her flatly. Lu Lan even went to Secretary Zhao to make a scene, but Secretary Zhao spread his hands and said, Lu Lan, don't harm your 3rd son. Your 4th son gives you 5 yuan a month, and your 3rd son also gives you 100 work points a month. Both families signed their fingerprints here to separate. Why are you blaming your 3rd son now? Your 2nd son didn't give you a cent, did he? Besides, the fact that you are partial to your 2nd son and your youngest daughter's family is known to the whole village and even the whole commune. You should have a good talk with your 2nd son and live with them properly. Lu Lan came back crying and hated everyone in her heart. She had no choice but to consider giving the $5 that Li Zhan gave her every month to her 2nd son, or living with Li Chang. However, thinking that if I did this I wouldn't be able to lose a penny, I became hesitant again, so I kept putting it off. Now her money was stolen and she was sick. She didn't even have anyone to cook for her or do farm work. Instead, it was that witch Xia Huanhuan who took care of everything. Not only was Li Zhan not injured, but Xia Huanhuan was also pregnant. Her life was going smoothly. With such a comparison, how could she not be extremely jealous and angry? If I had known that Li Zhan was not injured, there would have been no chance for Xia Huanhuan to marry into the Li family. But there was no point in being angry. Xia Huanhuan didn't even bother to pay attention to her. In the afternoon, Lin Yuru really stopped Xia Huanhuan from working. She asked Xia Shuangshan to go back and bring over a whole jar of pickled cabbage that she had pickled in the winter. Xia Huanhuan didn't like pickled cabbage very much, so she had already eaten the little she had pickled. Next, I went to the vegetable garden to cut some leeks. I fried 5 or 6 eggs, chopped the leeks, mixed them with the scrambled eggs, added salt, soy sauce, sugar, and other seasonings, kneaded the dough, rolled out the dumpling wrappers, and made several dumplings. That night, we had dumplings with leeks and eggs. Lin Yuru also specially fried a plate of stir-fried rabbit meat with sauerkraut, just for Xia Huanhuan. Xia Shuangshan and his cubs caught wild rabbits in the mountains in the afternoon. In addition to 2 wild rabbits, they also caught 3 wild pheasants, which can be said to be a good harvest. It was the first time for the 3 little guys to catch so many preys, and their faces were flushed with excitement. The remaining wild rabbit and wild pheasant. The wild pheasant was still alive and kept in a cage for a few days, waiting to be used to make chicken soup later, while the wild rabbit was skinned and the meat was made into bacon. After dinner, Xia Huanhuan couldn't sleep either, so Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan went back. Xia Huanhuan let the 3 kids go to bed first, then she took out some food, pork, eggs, and the like from the space. After thinking for a while, she took out some white rabbit milk candies and went to the cowshed under the cover of night. She left for the army in such a hurry that she didn't even have time to explain anything. Shen Wanxue and the master must have been very worried. When they arrived, Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi were still awake. She put the things down and took out the white rabbit milk candies to share with them. Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi looked at her with a smile and said, "We also got your and Li Zhan's wedding candy this afternoon. It was very sweet." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. She thought she wouldn't get any, so she thought of taking some for herself. Yang Qiushi sighed and said, "Secretary Zhao of this commune is a good man. A few days ago, a female educated youth made things difficult for our cowshed staff and asked us to do her share of farm work. It was Secretary Zhao who stepped in and scolded her. The afternoon candy was also shared with us." Shen Wanxue sighed. "Oh, I didn't expect your mother-in-law to be so mean that she didn't even hold a wedding with you. Fortunately, Li Zhan is a good man. No woman can compare to holding a wedding in the army. You can show off for a lifetime." As he said that, he looked at Xia Huanhuan and smiled. Xia Huanhuan's face was burning, and she smiled and said, "Aunt Shen, why did you learn from the master and make fun of me?" Yang Qiushi was very innocent. "I didn't do anything today. Don't rely on me." I couldn't help but feel guilty and said, "Huanhuan, master wants to apologize to you. I took my pulse that day. In fact, I had already found the happy pulse, but I was worried about it, so I didn't tell you. As a result, you traveled far the next day. These days I really regret it. I am afraid that something will happen to the child in your belly." When Xia Huanhuan heard this, he smiled and said, "I just said that the master was hesitant to speak that day. But master, don't blame yourself. After I arrived in the army, the military doctor there diagnosed me. I have to be careful these days. Woolen cloth." After hearing this, Yang Qiushi felt a little calmer. He took out a few more prescriptions, handed them to Xia Huanhuan and said, "Nua, this is a prescription for anti-fetal medicine. You need to prepare the medicinal ingredients yourself and drink them twice a day, morning and evening." Xia Huanhuan took it and thanked her. At this time, Shen Wanxue also took out a simple rosewood box, handed it to Xia Huanhuan, and said, "Huanhuan, open it and take a look, see if you like it." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then opened the box and found that inside was a beautifully carved He's white jade pendant. The pattern was phoenix. It was worth a fortune at first sight. It was probably more valuable than the pair of jasper bracelets she had collected on the black market before. All are valuable. Xia Huanhuan quickly declined and said, Aunt Shen, this is too valuable. I can't accept it. But Shen Wanxue pushed it back resolutely and said, Huanhuan, you have taken good care of me these days, found medicinal materials for me, and cured me. I had an eye disease and gave me so much food, but my aunt had no repayment. These things were originally a pair called Dragon and Phoenix pendants. I gave the dragon one to my son, and kept the phoenix one. Wait, Aunt is giving it to you today. Firstly, it is a wedding gift for you and Li Zhan. Secondly, Aunt thinks that you are my daughter. If you refuse to accept it, then Aunt will not dare to follow you again in the future. Getting closer. When Xia Huanhuan heard what she said, she accepted it without any further refusal. I can't help but wonder, does Shen Wanxue have a son? However, it seems that I have never seen him come to see Shen Wanxue for so long. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but ask, Aunt Shen, is your son also going to the countryside to become an educated youth? When Shen Wanxue asked, her eyes couldn't help but feel sad, and she couldn't help but pull up the corner of her clothes to wipe away her tears. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but regret that he was so reckless. With